Chapter 347. Fang Yu, you're delaying and not willing to make a move. Could it be that you're afraid of me and don't dare to make a move? Zhumu continued to provoke when he saw that there were more and more spectators nearby, but Fang Yu didn't have the intention to make a move immediately. I'm afraid of you? I think you're still dreaming. Fang Yu smiled and said, since you think there's enough spectators, make your move. After speaking, Fang Yu signaled Mo Ling and the others to give up their seat. He was going to fight Zhumu one-on-one. Mo Ling and the others tacitly gave up their seats for Fang Yu and Zhumu to fight one-on-one. To be honest, if Fang Yu and Zhumu were to fight one-on-one, it was simply self-evident what the result would be. This was something that didn't need to be asked. If he couldn't even deal with a mere Zhumu, Fang Yu wouldn't deserve to be number one on the leaderboard. Fang Yu and Zhumu, it's an interesting combination. Although Fang Yu is 1 star higher than Zhumu, in a battle between experts, the advantage of 1 star isn't as big as imagined. Yeah, I still think Zhumu is slightly stronger. After all, the number one on the leaderboard only has more points. In a one-on-one battle, he might not be so powerful. Zhumu is the legitimate son of the Zhou clan, an important branch of the three-eyed martial emperor's faction. Although he isn't well known in this area, Zhumu's strength can't be denied. Many people had confidence in Zhumu and felt that Zhumu had a greater advantage in this battle. Everyone doesn't think Fang Yu will win. Mo Ling rolled her eyes and suddenly said in a clear voice, since all of you don't think Fang Yu will win, I'll raise the stakes. I'll bet on Fang Yu winning with this item. Is there anyone who wants to bet with me? Mo Ling took out an 8 trigrams plate. The style was simple and there were traces of spirit energy overflowing from it. This is the treasure produced by the mysterious Sky Hall, the mysterious Sky 8 trigrams plate? Luolan's eyes were sharp and immediately recognized what it was. What's the mysterious Sky 8 trigrams plate? Someone asked curiously as it was the first time he had seen it. Exactly. This item has the same effect as the Eye of Exorcism. In some dangerous places or when you are hesitating, it can give you a hint. Although the specific meaning needs to be deciphered or comprehended by someone with a profound understanding, it still has a lot of functions. Most importantly, this item was only produced by the Secret Universe Hall. The Heavenly Secrets Hall only releases a limited number of Heavenly Secrets 8 trigrams plates every year. For Mo Ling to take one out as a wager already shows that he has great confidence in Fang Yu. A knowledgeable person explained. While everyone was suddenly enlightened, they couldn't help but lean towards Fang Yu. That's right. As a member of the mysterious Heavenly Hall, Mo Ling's every action had a certain meaning behind it. Now that she had bet on Fang Yu to win, it couldn't be for nothing, right? After all, the Heavenly Secrets 8 trigrams plate was not a cabbage that could be found anywhere. I'll bet with you. This is a treasure that contains the full power of a Wu Zong. Although how much power it can unleash depends on the strength of the owner, in terms of rarity, there isn't much difference between the two. Don't tell me you don't dare. Luolan took the initiative to accept the challenge. What a joke. Zhumu was her fiancé. Now that Zhumu had challenged Fang Yu, there were elements of revenge and getting back his face, but there was also the element of venting anger for Luolan. Now that Mo Ling had taken the initiative to increase the wager and challenge her, if she didn't accept the challenge, wouldn't everyone think that Zhumu was a pushover and that they were easy to bully? This is barely passable. Mo Ling glanced over and agreed for the time being. Just as she was about to say something, an inspector said, on the night of the Tribulation Transcendence, after the Tribulation Transcendence, an eye for an eye is an unwritten tradition. If you want to make a move, hurry up. Otherwise, don't say that you don't have a chance. These words were to remind Mo Ling not to go overboard. After all, Mo Ling's goal was to create momentum for Fang Yu. The bigger the better. At that time, when Zhumu was defeated, there would be the greatest benefits. This was Mo Ling's fundamental goal. However, to the inspectors, if Mo Ling really caused too much of a ruckus and things got out of hand, they would be the ones who would suffer. Therefore, they definitely wouldn't let Mo Ling do as she pleased. Tisk, Mo Ling smacked her lips, feeling somewhat disdainful. However, she couldn't say anything. Because of her actions of wanting to cause trouble, it was only a matter of time before she was suppressed by the Azure Dragon Academy. She just didn't expect it to end before it even started. It was really like dying before the battle started. However, the thing that Luo Lan took out as a wager is barely passable. Anyway, it's an empty promise, so I won't lose out. Mo Ling thought to herself. As for why it was an empty promise, Fang Yu was sure that Zhuomu would win, okay? If this wasn't trying to gain something without risking anything, then what was? Roar. Suddenly, Zhuomu roared, and his aura spread out like waves. Although the surroundings had been cleared, some people who were closer to him were still affected and kept retreating. Everyone was shocked. This was just the aura that Zhuomu emitted. He hadn't really made a move. If he really made a move, wouldn't they lose in one move? They really didn't expect Zhuomu to be so tyrannical and terrifying. TSK. Who are you trying to show off to? Fang Yu seemed to have expected this. He kept a distance and patted his sleeves lightly, as if what he just blew was some insignificant dust. Fang Yu, how arrogant you are now. Later, I will make you lose miserably. Zhuomu didn't care about Fang Yu's attitude and said. However, Zhuomu's current appearance was very different from before. The current Zhuomu vaguely didn't look like a human at all. Doesn't look like a human? Seeing this, many people's hearts sank. If he wasn't a human, then what was Zhuomu now? This is Zhuomu's bloodline power. Lai Feng glanced and said, the ancestor of the Zhuo family was a hybrid of demonic beast and human. Although later generations were connected to the human race through marriage, this bloodline can't be eliminated. Moreover, it doesn't need to be eliminated. This kind of bloodline, as long as you don't make a mistake, it's an advantage and has no negative effect. Of course, the most important thing is that they have been connected to the human race through marriage for many generations. This diluted their bloodline power a lot, but it's a power that can be controlled. For example, a saber, no matter how strong it is, it's fine. If you can't control it, you'll only hurt yourself. It's meaningless. Lai Feng stared at Zhuomu and said, but now, the direct descendants of the Zhuo family can completely control this kind of bloodline power, so it's only a trump card. If it wasn't for the fact that our family's bloodline is stronger, I'd be envious of Zhuomu. Then Zhuomu's bloodline is, Mayan couldn't help but ask. Chapter 348. Although Mayan had a powerful master, this was something that happened later. She was not taught by her master since she was young. Therefore, Mayan still had a lot of flaws in him. For example, Mayan did not know many of the secrets of the Wanling continent. On this point, Lai Ju was obviously different. As Lai Emperor's favorite granddaughter, Lai Ju had received the best education since she was young. Lai Ju's talent was also outstanding, which was shocking. Therefore, if Mayan and Lai Ju were to be compared, Lai Ju was obviously more outstanding. Zhuomu's bloodline power is Berserk. Lai Ju said word by word, it is different from the usual Berserk. The Zhuo family's Berserk bloodline comes from the Berserk beast. Berserk beast? Is there a legendary Berserk beast called Berserk God? Mayan's face changed. She knew about the Berserk beast. It was a creature that once dominated the land of the barbarian race. They had an ancestor called Berserk God. Berserk God was a god realm Berserk beast. When Berserk God was active, the people of the barbarian race trembled under his rule. Until Berserk God disappeared and the martial emperor of the barbarian race wiped out the remaining Berserk beasts, the people of the barbarian race reappeared. Otherwise, the warriors of the barbarian race would only be food for the berserk beast. Now that Zwamu's bloodline power came from the berserk beasts, Mayan would be lying if she said she was not shocked. Because the story of the berserk beasts was engraved in every barbarian's mind. Since young, they were told to be strong and not let the berserk beasts come back. Now that Zwamu's family was related to the berserk beasts, Mayan could not stay calm. Don't worry, it's all in the past. But how did Zwamu and the berserk beasts? Mayan felt Lai Ju's gaze and answered. I don't know. I can only say that the ancestor of the Zwa family was the product of the berserk beasts and the human race. After all, the love between a humanoid beast and a human is rare, but it happens occasionally, right? Lai Yen smiled and said, however, no matter what, when it comes to bloodline powers like berserk and berserk transformation, the berserk beast is undoubtedly the most authentic. Some even say that it originated from the god of the berserk beasts, the berserk god. Generation after generation of weakening seems to be weakening, but in fact, the Zwa family has completely mastered the power of berserk. It's hard to say whether it's a gain or a loss. Lai Yin sighed. Yes. Mayan said. At this time, Zwamu had already charged towards Fang Yu. Swish, swish, swish. Under the urging of the bloodline power, Zwamu was as violent as a demon beast. Facing his continuous attacks, Fang Yu kept retreating. Fang Yu, why are you hiding? Aren't you good at fighting? Zwamu hooted. He felt that he had Fang Yu in the bag. Fang Yu's defeat was only a matter of time. Fang Yu didn't say a word. He was looking for an opportunity to counterattack. One had to admit that Zwamu's bloodline power was very powerful. Among the geniuses, the gap between a 3-star martial spirit and a 4-star martial spirit wasn't huge, but it wasn't small either. Now that Zwamu had it, it was as if he didn't have it. His strength was obvious. No wonder he's from the Zwa family. Lu Xinjian's face was gloomy. Zwamu's method was actually very simple. He just chased and attacked fiercely, overwhelming the opponent. His attacks were continuous and ferocious. As long as there was a flaw, Zwamu would send him home. If it was Lu Xinjian, it would be difficult for him to hold on for 100 breaths, because Lu Xinjian was a blacksmith who relied on external objects. He wasn't good at chasing and attacking. It could be said that the current Zwamu was a natural nemesis to her kind of warrior. It was also difficult for Fang Yu to not be killed after dodging left and right. This Zwamu is very strong. We underestimated him before. Lu Tianbing said. He was a very straightforward person. Strong was strong, weak was weak. Zwamu's character wasn't good, but Zwamu's strength was indeed strong. If it was Lu Tianbing, he wouldn't dare to say that he could defeat Zwamu with 100% certainty. This is just the beginning. Let me tell you, those who are related to the martial emperor family aren't weak. At most, they're just pretending to be weak. Bai Wuxia said seriously. But you, Lu Xinjian wanted to say something but stopped. But you, Zwamu, lost to Fang Yu. Zwamu seemed to have expected what Lu Xinjian wanted to say. He directly replied, Today, whether Fang Yu can defeat Zwamu or not, Fang Yu is destined to lose to me. So confident, so courageous? He Ping asked. Bai Wuxia simply laughed in anger at these friends who were in the same team. Did these people really think that he was weak? He had only lost to Fang Yu once. Could he really not make a comeback? These guys, he must slap their faces hard. Slap their faces hard. Bang. Suddenly, Fang Yu stopped and raised his hand to catch Zwamu's punch. This punch made Zwamu's pupils shrink slightly. In order to send Fang Yu away the moment he hit Fang Yu, he didn't hold back in every punch. Now, Fang Yu easily caught his punch. Could it be that Fang Yu was really stronger than him? Impossible. Zwamu became even more furious. Berserk bloodline power? Interesting. Fang Yu muttered to himself. They weren't fighting in the arena now. Up until now, Fang Yu had been handling the situation with ease. Naturally, he also knew about the casual conversation between Mei Yan and Lai Yan. He knew how powerful Zhuamu's bloodline power was. Since that was the case, Fang Yu didn't plan to fight with Zhuamu for a long time. The current Zhuamu was already filled with anger. Even if their bloodline power had been diluted to a controllable level, as Zhuamu gradually lost his mind, all of this would no longer exist. Zhuamu might really turn into a berserk beast in the next battle. At that time, it would be difficult for Fang Yu to escape unscathed. Therefore, it was better to end this quickly. Bang! In the next moment, Fang Yu caught Zhuamu's fist, and there was a raging fire burning. Ah! Zhuamu felt the pain and his consciousness became clearer. He wanted to struggle to retract his fist, but Fang Yu grabbed it tightly like an iron hoop. He firmly locked Zhuamu's fist and didn't let Zhuamu retract his fist. Huh? This is… Vice Principal Wang narrowed his eyes. Did Fang Yu have a fire-type bloodline? Or fire attribute physique? Bloodline and physique looked similar, but bloodline's generalization was undoubtedly stronger. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that bloodline ranked above physique. Fang Yu's fire attribute bloodline was something no one had ever mentioned before. Chapter 349. Bang! Bang! Fang Yu's arm turned into flames, grabbing Zhuamu tightly, making Zhuamu scream miserably. Let go! Let go! Let go! Zhuamu roared furiously and bombarded Fang Yu continuously, wanting Fang Yu to let go. However, Fang Yu's expression did not change. He grabbed Zhuamu's fist tightly and refused to let go. What's this situation? Everyone was dumbfounded. They never thought that it would actually evolve into such a situation. Originally, although Zhuamu could not be said to have the upper hand, Fang Yu was indeed grasped by Zhuamu. Who won and who lost in this battle was still an unknown. However, Fang Yu suddenly unleashed the bloodline power that was never exposed before, making everything full of variables. Now, Zhuamu's situation took a turn for the worse. Who won and who lost in this battle was still an unknown. You want to let go, right? I'll fulfill your wish. Fang Yu suddenly exerted force and directly blasted Zhuamu away. Boom! Zhuamu retreated continuously, the blood in his chest rolling. What bloodline power is this? Zhuamu took a glance at his right hand that was almost burnt into charcoal, and was terrified. Fang Yu's flame did not just simply burn him. It also consumed his life force together. Like this, it was impossible for Zhuamu to recover if he did not go all out. Thinking of this, Zhuamu's expression became especially ugly. After all, after the core area was unsealed, he still wanted to be the first person to enter. Now that they were in such a state, were they rushing to be lab rats? You guess. Fang Yu said with a smile, making Zhuamu's expression even more uncertain. Did not expect that Fang Yu still had a trump card, and it was such a powerful trump card. Fang Yu, don't think that you've already won. Zhuamu roared in a deep voice. I don't think so. It's just you who thinks so. Fang Yu infuriated people to death without paying for it. Die for me. Zhuamu was so angry that his face was flushed red. He wanted to find Fang Yu to continue fighting. Fang Yu smiled. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Zhuamu had indeed sunk into a berserk state just now. It could be said that he would kill any god he met. Unfortunately, the one he met was Fang Yu. Even though Fang Yu wasn't clear about Zhuamu's background, something like bloodline power was definitely a unique treasure of a large family. Although going berserk was a little unexpected, but in the end, it's still within reason. It didn't surprise me too much. Fang Yu thought to himself. Yes, the power of his bloodline was a good thing, but if he wanted to eat Fang Yu with just the power of his bloodline, impossible. This was because Fang Yu also had the power of his bloodline. Although the power of his bloodline wasn't that strong for the time being, Fang Yu's constitution was the fairy emperor body. Bloodline and physique were related, but they were not necessarily equal. Moreover, this relationship was mostly limited to the myriad spirit continent. Although it could be used in the world outside the myriad spirit continent, there were many details that were completely different. For example, Fang Yu's physique and bloodline level were not equal. This kind of thing was absolutely impossible in the myriad spirit continent. However, in the elemental continent, or in the system of the fairies, it was possible for it to appear. No, it's very wrong. Luolan frowned. Fang Yu's bloodline power shouldn't be that strong, but why is his physique so strong? Something's wrong. Wasn't it? In Luolan's understanding, bloodline and physique were equal. This was the concept of the myriad spirit continent. Now that Fang Yu had broken this concept, Luolan really didn't know what to do for a moment. Boom, boom, boom. The flames on the surface of Fang Yu's body burned more and more fiercely. Soon, it was as if a flame god had descended upon the world, making people involuntarily retreat. What bloodline is this? What physique is this? Why is it so sharp? Is it the Fire King physique? I remember there's a Fire King physique that's also very powerful. But isn't Fang Yu a little too powerful? Everyone had different opinions, but they just couldn't figure out what bloodline and physique Fang Yu had. Why was the difference between the two so huge? This didn't conform to the logic of the myriad spirit continent at all. Fang Yu is indeed a little interesting. Vice Principal Wang nodded slightly and seemed to be deep in thought. After a while, he laughed again and said, "Haha, the people I choose indeed have some skills. My eyesight is really excellent." He dared to say that at that time, it was definitely his intuition that had sensed Fang Yu's extraordinariness, which was why he had issued a special invitation. Looking back now, this wave was not a loss. The more Vice Principal Wang thought, the more pleased he was. If it wasn't for his unique eyesight, the Azure Dragon Academy might have missed out on a general talent. Thinking of this, Vice Principal Wang increasingly felt that he was wise and mighty. "Zhuomu, it's not too late for you to admit defeat now. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's too late for you to beg for mercy when I'm serious." Fang Yu scolded Zhuomu angrily, which made Zhuomu slightly stunned. "I, Zhuomu, am not weak. How can I lose to a puny Fang Yu? I can't lose, I can't fail." Zhuomu roared furiously. He wanted to fight Fang Yu head-on. "Naive," Fang Yu said coldly. 10,000 beasts Emperor Fist. Fang Yu blasted out a soul martial art. Thousands of demonic beasts' shadows were covered in flames. Thousands of flaming meteors fell down, which made Zhuomu dumbfounded. Bang! 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 Then, Zhuomu, who was in a daze, was drowned in countless flames. "Zhuomu!" Luolan screamed. It was obvious to the naked eye how terrifying Fang Yu's attack was. It was obvious that Zhuomu didn't have the strength to fight anymore. He lost. "Are you going to admit defeat for him?" Mo Ling asked with a smile. "If I don't admit defeat, you're going to continue?" Luolan was so angry that he laughed. "Theoretically, it's possible." Mo Ling's expression didn't change. "Good, good, good. I want to see if you really dare to kill our people." Luolan glared. "Kill, it's not necessary." Fang Yu shook his head. "According to the rules, we are not allowed to kill. However, he lost. This is a fact. You admit defeat for him." Before Luolan had time to speak, a figure slowly emerged from the flames. "Lan Er, don't beg them. I, Zhuomu, haven't lost yet." Zhuomu's voice came from this figure. Fang Yu frowned at this scene. The current Zhuomu was definitely seriously injured. If that was the case, was he still going to fight to the death? Was it necessary? Was it necessary to fight like this? Fang Yu was really puzzled. "You don't understand the vanity and pride of these big families," Mo Ling said softly. "Yes, I'm not strong enough." Fang Yu abruptly blurted out a sentence that was completely unrelated to the situation. Chapter 350. N. Fang Yu's unexpected words made many people puzzled. What did he mean? If I'm strong enough, he won't be so obsessed with me. Instead, he'll submit to me willingly. So in this situation, it can only mean that I'm not strong enough, Fang Yu said with a straight face. Once he said that, everyone was speechless, because Fang Yu's words didn't make sense. After all, how could this kind of thing be calculated based on Fang Yu's calculation? However, if Fang Yu's calculation was wrong, it would seem that if he was strong enough, the other party wouldn't dare to disturb him. This was also a fact. Fang Yu, I admit that I, Zhuomu, have underestimated you. Zhuomu was panting. His entire person had turned into charcoal, but he was still persistent and stubborn. Zhuomu, why don't you admit defeat? If this continues, it'll only be harmful to you. Someone couldn't help but advise. Wasn't that right? Zhuomu was seriously injured to this extent, but he was still persistent and stubborn. Wasn't he afraid that he would accidentally send himself away? If so, it would probably be the biggest joke of the year. You all think that I, Zhuomu, have lost? Just based on these few moves? Zhuomu was so angry that he laughed. This scene, in many people's eyes, was simply confusing. After all, he was beaten up to this extent. If this wasn't a loss, then what was considered a loss? However, the current Zhuomu was completely burned beyond recognition. No one could see what Zhuomu's expression was now. If this isn't a loss, then what's a loss? Someone couldn't help but sneered and said what was in his heart. Zhuomu was so aggressive previously. They really thought that Zhuomu was going to defeat Fang Yu. After all, although Fang Yu was number one on the list, how could a martial artist from Zhuo family be weak? Little did they know that Zhuomu was just an empty shell. Although the power of bloodline was strong, it seemed to be restrained. He couldn't do anything at all. At this stage, he still wasn't willing to admit defeat. They really didn't know what Zhuomu was thinking. Did he want to continue humiliating himself? Zhuomu didn't lose. As Zhuomu roared, lines and lines appeared on the surface of his body. This is... Everyone's pupils shrank, obviously recognizing what it was. This was the extreme activation of one's bloodline power, commonly known as bloodline ignition. Zhuomu, don't. Luolan quickly stopped him. This method was very risky. Under normal circumstances, he would still be able to recover from it. However, if he were to be careless, he could really damage his bloodline and cause irreversible damage. Thus, it was best not to do so. I want to win. Zhuomu directly pounced on Fang Yu. Naive? Before Fang Yu could finish his words, he had already retreated. Boom. 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 Only to see that several large holes suddenly appeared where Fang Yu was standing just now. Clearly, it was Zhuomu's work. Is this what it means to ignite one's bloodline? I'm in love. Fang Yu grinned. Don't laugh, he's gone berserk. Combined with his berserk bloodline, it's extremely terrifying. Long Tianxian's voice leisurely sounded. You're awake? Fang Yu was a little surprised. Why? I'm awake, isn't it normal? Long Tianxian said weakly. Originally, turning into a thunder spirit and walking the path of a thunder dragon is more convenient than directly undergoing nirvana. If not, I wouldn't have agreed to your method. How long do you need to rest to recover? Fang Yu asked again. Are you a devil? I've just turned into a thunder spirit, and you can't wait to get me to work? Long Tianxian said speechlessly. One more person, one more strength. Now that Zhuomu is like this, it's not easy to kill him. Fang Yu went back to the topic. That's right, the current Zhuomu, after becoming berserk as Long Tianxian said, looked even more ferocious. The current Zhuomu was filled with a beast's intuition. It could be said that the flaws that Zhumu revealed now were deliberately revealed. It was completely different from before. If Fang Yu wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, he would definitely suffer a great loss. TSK. That's really scary. Fang Yu gradually showed a trace of caution. Could he say that he was really worthy of being the descendant of a big family? If it was an ordinary warrior, he would have fallen long ago. Zhumu, on the other hand, was still alive and kicking. He should really say that he was worthy of being called Yu. However, the berserk bloodline power can't win against me. You're too arrogant, Fang Yu said in a deep voice. That's right, not to mention that his elf emperor body was above the opponent. In terms of effect, they both restrained each other. So what if he was berserk? After all, he was still a flesh and blood body. Using his flesh and blood body to resist Fang Yu's flame was simply stupid. Boom boom boom. Countless flames spurted out from Fang Yu's palm. At this moment, Fang Yu was like the incarnation of a flaming god of war, forcing Zhumu to retreat. Zhumu, stop, Lu Alan couldn't help but say. She certainly cared about her face and dignity, but compared to Zhuumu's life, it was simply not worth mentioning. I won't. Zhumu gritted his teeth and said. He was unwilling to lose to Fang Yu like this. TSK, if it wasn't for Fang Yu being more like the protagonist, I would really shout, "Don't bully a poor young man, for you." Mo Ling didn't forget to mock and ridicule. Say the most ruthless words and receive the most ruthless beating. She was talking about Zhumu. There's something wrong with him, Long Tianxian suddenly said. What's wrong? Fang Yu asked. He seems to be doing it on purpose. Long Tianxian pondered for a while and said. On purpose? Fang Yu was slightly startled. This Zhumu is strange. Vice Principal Wang, who was watching the battle, didn't say anything. Maybe it's just ordinary stubbornness? An inspector gently stroked his beard and said. Refusing to admit defeat could be said to be a characteristic of the descendants of big clans. The glory of their ancestors made them proud. They were so proud that they couldn't tell whether this glory came from themselves or from the bloodline passed down by their ancestors. Now, Fang Yu was teaching them a lesson. It wasn't bad. No, something's wrong, something's wrong. Vice Principal Wang suddenly reacted and was shocked. Could it be that he wants to? Before he finished his words, Zhuumu's aura had already changed drastically. Sure enough, Vice Principal Wang exhaled and said, This time, Fang Yu is in trouble. Wang? Before the inspector finished his words, he already knew what was the trouble that Vice Principal Wang was talking about. He saw that in Zhuumu's dying body, there was something that was about to come out. His aura suddenly increased, which surprised everyone. Everyone was shocked. No matter how they looked at it, Fang Yu should have won this battle. How could there be such a sudden change? Chapter 351. Oh no, it's from Zhuumu's body. We've been tricked. Mo Ling's face darkened. What does that mean? Lu Shuzhan asked in confusion. That's exactly what it means. Bai Wuxia said seriously, We've been tricked this time. Zhumu did it on purpose. He purposely let Fang Yu injure him to the point where his life is in danger. What? On purpose? Everyone was shocked. Zhumu was acting all this time? It can't be. At first, Zhumu probably didn't think of using this move because there's a harsh condition to use it. That is, he's on the brink of death. Think about it. Under normal circumstances, who would be on the verge of death if everything went smoothly? Those who were on the verge of death must have encountered an unexpected situation. At this time, the life-saving mark left by their elders will come into play. Bai Wuxia continued. Generally speaking, the heirs of the big clans would have such a mark. Of course, this is not a given. This is because such a mark is extremely taxing on one's mental and physical strength. Only those who are favored, or those who have a higher status, are qualified to have it. So you have it too? Lu Shuzhan asked in surprise. In response, Bai Wuxia rolled his eyes at Lu Shenzhan. What the hell was that? What did he mean by "so I have it too"? As the grandson of the white-robed general, he was famous among his peers. Was Lu Shuzhan looking down on him now? So it's the power of the Zhuo clan's elder that's descending? Feng Yaoguang asked suddenly. Probably. Although the strength of the descending power is closely related to the strength of the soul of the Zhuo clan's elder who left the mark, according to the aura released now, it's at least a martial king. Bai Wuxia said seriously, of course, the martial king mentioned here is the power that's descending. It's not just a martial king. Fang Yu is in trouble now. Everyone's heart sank. The power of a martial king. Even if Fang Yu was a 4-star martial spirit, it would not be easy for him to resist it. Not to mention, Fang Yu had fought a fierce battle with Zhuo Mu and even used his bloodline power. He was no longer in his peak condition. Now, he still had to face the attack of the Zhuo family's elders. Could Fang Yu bear it? Is this within the scope of the rules? Feng Yaoguang asked with a frown. Yes. Bai Wuxia nodded. Vice School Head Wang is still keeping an eye on the situation. If he really didn't comply with the rules, he would have stopped us long ago. That makes sense. Feng Yaoguang's face turned ugly. Boom boom, Fang Yu stared at the power emanating from Zhuo Mu's body. His expression didn't change. As expected, this is the sole imprint their elders left in Zhuo Mu's body. If anything happens, it can turn the situation around. Long Tianxian said seriously. Of course, this kind of soul imprint won't be too strong. If it's too strong, it will affect Zhuo Mu. Moreover, this kind of thing is mostly used as a life-saving trump card. As long as there's a chance to escape, it's enough. For example, from what we've seen, the power that this imprint can display is around that of a martial king. Long Tianxian continued, a martial king is not easy to deal with, unless you also use your trump card. That's right. A martial king looked very powerful. In fact, for the current Fang Yu, there might be a way to deal with it. For example, the Void Rat. The Void Rat was already an out-and-out demon king. Once the Void Rat was used, the so-called trump card on the other side was just a useless card. However, it was already said that it was a trump card. If it was used casually, could it still be called a trump card? Moreover, it wasn't certain that he could defeat them now. It was better to observe carefully before making a move. This Zhuo Mu is really, Fang Yu's eyes flashed with coldness. After beating the young, the old comes. TSK. Perhaps many people thought that Zhuo Mu was very stupid. Knowing that he couldn't do it, he still forced himself to do it. However, in Fang Yu's eyes, Zhuo Mu was very smart. Yes, he was really smart. After Zhuo Mu realized that he probably couldn't defeat Fang Yu, he hardened his heart and used the trick of injuring himself to gain sympathy. As long as Zhuo Mu suffered enough pain, the imprint in his body would be activated. It would break out and protect Zhuo Mu. Because Zhuo Mu was very clear that the current him couldn't win against Fang Yu. However, if he allowed Fang Yu to grow stronger, Fang Yu would become stronger and stronger, and Zhuo Mu would only have less and less chances. Therefore, Zhuo Mu wanted to kill Fang Yu ruthlessly and directly erase Fang Yu. Of course, with Vice Principal Wang here, Fang Yu definitely wouldn't be in any danger. However, now that Fang Yu was in the limelight, it was the best time to rise to the top in one go. If his momentum was interrupted here, even if it wasn't to the extent of collapsing, he would still be at a disadvantage. This was Zhuo Mu's ultimate goal. If he didn't have a good time, Fang Yu wouldn't have a good time either. I thought something had happened, so it's just a little brat. The soul power in Zhuo Mu's body spread out and condensed into a human figure, gazing at Fang Yu. Third uncle. Zhuo Mu hurriedly shouted. Humph, Zhuo Mu, you're really disappointing. The human figure snorted at Zhuo Mu. Zhumu didn't say anything. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the dignified Zhou family's legitimate son had fallen to such a state. However, Zhumu didn't care about being reprimanded by the elders. As long as he could get rid of Fang Yu, what was this little reprimand? Although I'm very disappointed in you, it's better to deal with the trouble in front of us first. The third uncle in Zhuumu's mouth moved his gaze and fell on Fang Yu again. You're the one who attacked Zhumu. Do you know how big of a sin it is to attack the legitimate son of the Zhou family? Third Uncle Zhou said lightly. When he spoke, it was very natural, as if he was reprimanding an ordinary junior. May I ask, senior, what's your cultivation? Fang Yu pondered for a while and gave an irrelevant answer. What does my cultivation have to do with you? Although Third Uncle Zhou was puzzled as to why Fang Yu suddenly asked such a question, he still answered directly. He was a person with a high status in the Zhou family, so he was too lazy to pay attention to a little brat like Fang Yu. However, the other party could actually make Zhumu suffer such a huge loss. He was still a little interested in how Fang Yu did it. In addition, as the legitimate son of the Zhou family, Zhumu was doted on by everyone. Sometimes he was too arrogant. This time, making Zhumu suffer a loss to teach him a lesson was a good choice. Even so, it's still unforgivable to hurt the descendant of the Zhou family. Third Uncle Zhou was furious. He was about to explode and suppress Fang Yu here. Chapter 352. Seeing this, Zhuumu's lips curled up. Although he had suffered a great loss and was seriously injured, if he could get rid of Fang Yu this time, everything would be worth it. Because he had a strange premonition that if he didn't get rid of Fang Yu, he, Zhumu, would never have a day of peace. Now that Fang Yu was already so difficult to deal with as a martial spirit, what if he became a martial king, martial emperor, or even martial saint? Would he, Zhumu, ever have a day of peace? Now, no matter the price, getting rid of Fang Yu was the best plan. Third Uncle's strength and status were not low in the Zhou family, and he loved Zhumu very much. This mark was sealed by Third Uncle himself. At that time, Third Uncle spent a lot of time and effort. However, in order to give Zhumu an extra layer of insurance, he was willing to work so hard. Therefore, now that the soul power sealed by Third Uncle had appeared, Fang Yu was dead for sure. It was impossible for Third Uncle not to realize that Fang Yu was a strong enemy, and he needed to get rid of him now. Otherwise, Zhumu wouldn't have gone to this extent. Of course it's related. Because if you're not that strong, when I catch up with your cultivation, I'll take revenge for today. Fang Yu said with a smile. He used the most relaxed expression to say the most shocking words. Was Fang Yu really not joking? He dared to say such words to an elder of the Zhou family. Did he want to die? Haha, you're quite arrogant. No wonder you dared to hurt Zhumu like this. You're not stupid. You should know that you can only accept all this, right? Since you're so disrespectful to me, I think you don't want to continue participating in the semi-finals. Third Uncle Zhou chuckled with a murderous intent. Vice Principal Wang. Many inspectors quickly looked at Vice Principal Wang. Although the opponent's strength was only that of a martial king, it was not appropriate for them to stop him. The opponent was from the Zhou family, and his status was not low. Although they could stop him, there would be consequences. Only Vice Principal Wang could calm the storm. It was rumored that Vice Principal Wang had a close relationship with a female cultivator from the clan of the Azure Monarch. Of course, this was only limited to rumors. It was just that normally, Vice Principal Wang was indeed fearless and could do whatever he wanted. This made people even more convinced that this might not be just a rumor. In the Azure Thearchus territory, there were female cultivators with high status in the Azure Thearchus family to protect them. Of course, they could do whatever they wanted. Even those from the Zhou clan, despite their standing, wouldn't dare to offend Vice School Head Wang. For the Azure Dragon Academy to be able to stand tall for so many years, They were not to be trifled with. There's no rush. Vice Principal Wang was silent for a moment before he said, "From what I can see, Fang Yu is not afraid at all. He should have some confidence. Let's see what's going on with Fang Yu first before we make any plans." "What?" Everyone's eyes widened. Did Vice Principal Wang make a mistake? The other party's elders had already come knocking on their door, and now they were saying that Fang Yu might be able to handle it? Was this for real? Vice President Wang stared at Fang Yu. He knew that Fang Yu was a very crafty person. If he really couldn't handle it, Fang Yu wouldn't mind asking for help. For people like Fang Yu, face was nothing compared to life and death. However, Fang Yu didn't have this intention at all, which was very thought-provoking. Could it be that Fang Yu was really confident that he could handle this matter? Let's wait and see. No, no, no. Upon hearing this, Fang Yu quickly waved his hand and said, "I did not make myself clear earlier. The grudge I am talking about is not the fact that you may have injured me today. Instead, it is the fact that you have threatened me in such a manner. Do you think that I, Fang Yu, do not have any face?" "You? Face? Ha ha." Third Uncle Zhuo laughed and said, "Fang Yu, how much is your face worth?" "My face is very valuable." Fang Yu's smile didn't fade. "Why don't you have a try?" "Okay." Third Uncle Zhuo had just said the word, "okay," when Fang Yu was already in front of him. Slap. In the next moment, Fang Yu slapped Third Uncle Zhuo's face. This is a slap? Everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. Third Uncle Zhuo didn't come with his real body, but with his soul power. However, what was a slap? They were all dumbfounded. Slap. 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 Fang Yu didn't stop slapping. His left and right hands moved in slow motion and slapped Third Uncle Zhuo's face from left and right. This. "Fang Yu, how dare you disrespect my third uncle?" Zhuomu reacted and said angrily. Then he noticed another problem. Why did Third Uncle Zhuo let Fang Yu do whatever he wanted? What was going on? You. Fang Yu. The Zhuo family's third uncle's peers were stunned. He didn't know why he was being slapped by Fang Yu for no reason. He couldn't fight back at all. "Yes, I'm hitting you. So what if I hit the young one and the old one came? I, Fang Yu, will still hit the old one." Fang Yu was still slapping Third Uncle Zhuo. Third Uncle Zhuo wanted to fight back, but as a martial king, he was surprised to find that he couldn't fight back at all under Fang Yu's continuous attacks. He could only take the beating. Look! Suddenly, a sharp-eyed person noticed that Third Uncle Zhuo's soul power was getting thinner and thinner under Fang Yu's continuous attacks. This meant that Third Uncle Zhuo's soul power was constantly being consumed. Fang Yu also has a treasure with soul power. Bai Wuxi reacted. That's right, Fang Yu relied on this treasure to kill the bloodthirsty demon wolf. Now that Third Uncle Zhuo was restrained, it was probably because of this treasure. How could this treasure be so powerful? Even Third Uncle Zhuo. Lu Cheng's eyebrows twitched. Such a treasure would be sold for a sky-high price anywhere, right? As the saying goes, don't show off your wealth. Fang Yu really dared. Maybe Fang Yu did it on purpose? Feng Yaoguang said, "Right now, Fang Yu has become a thorn in many people's eyes. Even with us and Lai Yang's help, two fists can't fight against four hands. Now that Fang Yu is able to defeat Zhuomu and his third uncle's soul power, it's enough to show how powerful Fang Yu is. If you want to deal with him, you'll have to think twice." This is really Fang Yu's style. "Brother Fang, I want to give birth to your children." When Mo Ling cheered for Fang Yu, a wave of exclamations rang out. Although Mo Ling often teased Fang Yu, she was still the second strongest person in Tianji Hall's younger generation. Some words could come true if they were right. This was because Mo Ling didn't say anything to Wang Zhong or Kegu Er, but she said it to Fang Yu? The amount of information in this was really thought-provoking. Feng Yaoguang took a deep look at Mo Ling before retracting her gaze. However, her eyes no longer had the worry and fear from before. Chapter 353. Fang Yu. Third Uncle's roared. He knew very well that if he didn't retaliate, he would really be broken apart by Fang Yu. His position in the Zhuo family was not low. If he ended up like this, he would definitely become the laughingstock of the family. Fang Yu, don't go too far. Luo Lan and the others were about to stop Fang Yu. They were on the same side as Zhuo Mu, and they had a close relationship with the Zhuo family. If they allowed Fang Yu to do whatever he wanted, they would lose face, and they would be reprimanded when they returned. Therefore, they had to stop Fang Yu here. What are you doing? Mo Ling and the others took the lead and stopped Luo Lan and the others. Get lost. Luo Lan looked as if she wanted to eat them alive. Wasn't that right? The current situation was extremely critical, but they were still obstructing. Were they really going to stand on the opposite side of the Holy Land? Aya, if you want to obstruct a fair and just exchange pointers, I will definitely stop you. Or, can you defeat me first? Mo Ling asked with a smile. Luo Lan's face turned ugly. If she could defeat Mo Ling, she would definitely do so without hesitation. However, she did not have the ability to do so. Mo Ling was not a weakling. He was even stronger than her. How could she defeat him? As for Luo Lan's companions, they might not even be as strong as Luo Lan. There was no way. They could only watch as Fang Yu crushed Third Uncle's soul power. Until the moment before he was crushed, Third Uncle's still did not understand why he was unable to fight back in front of Fang Yu. Why was this? Why was this so? With this thought, Third Uncle's completely dissipated. Fang Yu exhaled and approached Zhuo Mu. You, what are you doing? Zhuo Mu, who was already on the verge of death, could not escape even if he wanted to. Fang Yu stepped on his face. Bang! Zhuo Mu was directly knocked out by Fang Yu. Fang Yu took away the devil breaker eye that Zhuo Mu had bet on. He was in a good mood. Zhuo Mu lost. Everyone was at a loss for words as they watched the battle come to an end. Originally, no one was optimistic about Fang Yu's chances in this battle. Although Fang Yu was number one on the list, when they wanted to see Fang Yu's strength, Fang Yu disappeared. When Fang Yu appeared again, it was at the auction. Then, on the night of the Tribulation Transcendence, he displayed his might and almost destroyed the Tribulation Transcendence. In the end, he became the biggest winner. Everything was grotesque and motley. However, the most surprising thing was that Fang Yu was the one who had the last laugh even after Third Uncle's had made his move. What kind of deity or monster was he? Would they stand a chance against such a person? Let's go. As for the rest of the matters, you guys can handle it. Vice Principal Wang threw down these words lightly and left directly. Vice Principal Wang. The inspectors couldn't stop Vice Principal Wang. Sigh, Vice Principal Wang is busy every day. We just have to put in more effort. The inspectors looked at each other and said, That's right. Normal people might think that Vice Principal Wang was sloppy. In fact, they, the seniors of Azure Dragon Academy, knew how hard Vice Principal Wang worked. These years, when the current principal wasn't around, many things had to be done by Vice Principal Wang. It even delayed Vice Principal Wang's cultivation. Every time this topic was brought up, everyone was speechless about the current principal. Could they say that the current principal didn't manage Azure Dragon Academy's affairs for even a day? It was always Vice Principal Wang who did it. However, Vice Principal Wang said that the current principal had more important things to do. Compared to what the current principal wanted to do, everything he did was not worth mentioning. Since Vice Principal Wang, the person involved, said so, what else could they say? Is there anyone else who doesn't agree? Do you want to seek justice for him? Fang Yu looked straight at Luo Lan and said expressionlessly. This made Luo Lan tremble with anger. Zhuo Mu could be said to have used all his trump cards. He had done so much and still couldn't get rid of Fang Yu. How could she do better? Moreover, she really challenged Fang Yu. She dared to say that if she lost, Fang Yu would also mercilessly step on her face. This kind of humiliation, even a man like Zhumu couldn't bear it. How could a woman like her bear it? Therefore, Luolan didn't say anything or respond to Fang Yu's provocation. She directly supported Zhumu with a few companions and left silently. Halfway there, Luolan suddenly turned back. This matter, we won't let it go. We will get back today's humiliation. If you want, you can do it now, Fang Yu said leisurely. Luolan didn't respond and left with Zhumu. This Luolan is incredible. Kegu clicked his tongue. She can bear it too well? If it was me, I would definitely. Definitely what? Fang Yu asked. I wouldn't even say any harsh words. It's already like this. What's the point of saying harsh words? What's the point? Isn't that right? Anyway, if you don't dare to fight, then whatever you say is just nonsense. Kegu chuckled and said. His words were crude, but they were reasonable. In the world of martial artists, strength was respected. Without strength, no matter how much he argued, it was meaningless. Kegu knew that he couldn't deal with Fang Yu, so he wouldn't waste his strength. However, Zhumu was indeed sinister. If it was another person, they would probably suffer a big loss after being schemed by Zhumu. After all, this method wasn't stopped by Vice Principal Wang and the others, which meant that it was within the rules. If it was within the rules, then nothing was forbidden. Kegu dared to say that if it was him, he would be miserable. Fang Yu, on the other hand, actually destroyed the soul image of third Uncle Zhuo with one slap after another. What else could Kegu say? Fang Yu was awesome. Who else wants to challenge me? Fang Yu said as he looked directly at Bai Wuxia. Originally, he and Bai Wuxia had agreed to fight, but Zhumu was a step ahead of them. So, Zhumu was the first to fight. Although Fang Yu wasn't in his peak state, he was still not afraid of fighting with Bai Wuxia. Fight! Bai Wuxia only replied with one word. His fighting spirit was instantly ignited. The battle between Zhumu and Fang Yu just now was straightforward and full of tricks, which didn't suit Bai Wuxia's taste. Fang Yu was also a battle kaleidoscope. He could adapt to any kind of battle, and beat Zhumu until he was covered in cuts and bruises. Perhaps when Zhumu saw Fang Yu in the future, he would remember the fear of being stepped on in the face by him. Such a Fang Yu was too strong, too terrifying. However, such a Fang Yu was very much to Bai Wuxia's taste. He was worthy of a challenge. Chapter 354. They're still going to fight. Lu Shuzhan was a little disappointed and excited at the same time. He was disappointed because they were on the same team. It was not good for them to fight to the death. He was excited because Fang Yu was strong and so was Bai Wuxia. He was looking forward to seeing the sparks that would be created when the two of them clashed. Bai Wuxia and Fang Yu are going to fight again. Fight again? Did they fight before? Why do you think Bai Wuxia is following Fang Yu? It's because Fang Yu defeated him. He's been waiting for a chance to take revenge. Everyone had different opinions. They were all looking forward to this battle. Do you think Bai Wuxia can win this time? Meian asked Lai Yin. Well, if it was before, I would have bet on Bai Wuxia. After all, he's my man. I'm confident in his strength. Lai Yin smiled and said, however, after watching Fang Yu and Zhumu's fight, I'm not so sure anymore. When he fought with Zhumu, it looked like they were evenly matched, but in fact, it was easy. He even defeated the third uncle of the Zhuo family. Can I say that I don't understand it now? Is it because he used soul energy? Meian said. His spiritual energy is one of them. More importantly, what kind of spiritual energy does his spiritual energy belong to? You should know that the spiritual energy is extremely mysterious. Other than some creatures that are born with the spiritual energy, Ordinary people are completely clueless about the spiritual energy. They are completely clueless about it. Only after reaching the martial saint realm can one merge their spiritual energy and physical energy. Lai Yin was getting more and more curious. Did Fang Yu merge his soul and body? It can't be. That shouldn't be possible. Mayan said hesitantly. Merging his soul and body is harder than entering the martial saint realm. Entering the martial saint realm might depend on one's talent. However, merging one's soul and body requires one to enter the martial saint realm. That's hard to say. Anything is possible. Lai Yin shook his head. Because the famous martial emperors are all people who can turn something rotten into something magical. Are you saying that Fang Yu can become a martial emperor? Mayan raised her eyebrows. This kind of thinking was too bold. Even if the current Fang Yu looked very different, it was still the case. I was just speaking casually. How difficult is it to become a martial emperor? Even martial sages are the main characters of their respective eras. As for martial emperors, I don't dare to imagine. Lai Yu laughed at himself. That's right, after Lai Di became a martial emperor, the resources and capital he possessed were unimaginable. However, for the time being, the highest achievement of the Lai Emperor's son was the martial saint realm, which was Lai Feng's father. As for the rest, they were half-sages at most. They were not even martial sages. It was easy to imagine whether it was difficult or not. Therefore, even though Fang Yu was shining brightly right now, the number 1 ranking was only temporary. Who would dare to say that Fang Yu would definitely become a monarch? Therefore, Lai Yin had reservations. Do you want to rest? Bai Wuxia asked. I don't want to beat you when you're not in your best condition. I don't want you to go back on your word. What an interesting thing to say. Fang Yu smiled. If I want to beat you, I can do it anytime. Bring it on. What a big tone. So this is Fang Yu? I love him, I love him. But this time, I think Bai Wuxia will win. As the descendant of the white-robed general, Bai Wuxia will not lose again. Everyone was discussing what the outcome of this battle would be. If that's the case, don't look for excuses later. Bai Wuxia grinned and did not try to persuade him. Since Fang Yu was so arrogant, he would teach Fang Yu a lesson. After 10 breaths, the battle will begin. Mo Ling took the initiative to act as the judge. 10, 9, 10 breaths of time passed as scheduled. 1. When the countdown ended, Bai Wuxia took the initiative to move. Last time, he was caught off guard by Fang Yu. This time, he wanted to seize the initiative. However, when Bai Wuxia approached, Fang Yu's body was covered in flames. Is that the bloodline power that forced Zhuomu to retreat? Bai Wuxia retreated several steps. He was not prepared to meet Fang Yu head-on. One had to know that with this kind of fire body constitution, attacking them was like a moth flying into a flame. If he could not take advantage of them, he would end up hurting himself instead. Fang Yu chuckled. Could he say that this was the moment he had been waiting for? Although Bai Wuxia was much smarter this time, his intelligence was still within Fang Yu's expectations. Since Bai Wuxia wanted to control the rhythm, Fang Yu would directly disrupt his rhythm. 10,000 beasts Emperor Fist. Fang Yu punched out, and countless flaming demonic beasts pounced towards Bai Wuxia. Bai Wuxia snorted and prepared to defend himself. This was Zhuomu's final attack. It was so powerful that even Bai Wuxia did not dare to face it head-on. However, just as Bai Wuxia was about to dodge, he suddenly remembered something. No, that's not right. Just as Bai Wuxia exclaimed, Fang Yu appeared out of nowhere. Pung! Fang Yu's palm landed on Bai Wuxia's face. With lightning speed, he directly knocked Bai Wuxia down. You've lost. Fang Yu's arm was covered in flames. If Bai Wuxia did not admit defeat, these flames would have appeared on his face in the next moment. He had seen Zhuomu's miserable state with his own eyes. Bai Wuxia knew that he did not want to end up like that. However, his mouth twitched, but he still could not open it to admit defeat. It was too difficult to admit defeat. Especially for Bai Wuxia, who was challenging Fang Yu for the second time, it was even more difficult. This time, he was defeated in one move again. Where would he put his face? We admit defeat. Suddenly, someone spoke up. It was a female voice. The one who spoke was Lai Ju. Ju Yu. Bai Wuxia was a little angry. Why did Lai Ju help him admit defeat? At this point it's already very difficult for you to win. Since that's the case, why don't you just admit defeat? Your handsome face doesn't need to suffer, right? Lai Ju giggled, leaving Bai Wuxia speechless. It was impossible to say that he did not care about his face. As a handsome guy, how could he not care about his looks? However, it was too difficult for him to admit defeat. He knew that he couldn't do it. Therefore, Lai Ju's admission of defeat was also giving him a way out. It was just a matter of whether Bai Wuxia was willing to accept it or not. Challenge me again in 7 days. Overall, you've improved a little compared to before. However, you've only seen the next step. You can't win against me. Fang Yu said honestly. He was not pretending, he was speaking the truth. Chapter 355. Bai Wuxia was a very talented person. He was a true prodigy. Unfortunately, his experience was far from Fang Yu's. Just as Fang Yu had said, Bai Wuxia had only seen the next step. He could not win against Fang Yu. If Bai Wuxia wanted to win against Fang Yu, he would have to stand higher and see further. Next time, I will definitely win against you. Bai Wuxia gritted his teeth and said. You will have the chance. Fang Yu smiled and stood up. Another battle came to an end, making people sigh endlessly. After this battle, many people had given up on challenging Fang Yu. There was no other reason. If Fang Yu's victory over Zhumu was more or less due to luck, then this battle with Bai Wuxia was because Fang Yu had calculated everything to the extreme. Fang Yu had calculated all the possible moves his opponent could make. Such a person was so meticulous and powerful. How could they compete with him? There was no way they could compete with him. No matter how much they disliked Fang Yu, the current Fang Yu was not someone they could win against. They were no match for him. This was an ironclad fact. Even if they challenged him head-on, they would not gain anything other than a body full of injuries and losing face. It was better to save this step. Let's wait for the core area to be unsealed, Fang Yu said. As for whether the others would challenge him or not, he did not care. Anyway, no one would challenge him. Let me rest for a while. Long Tianxian went back to sleep. Her current state was still unstable. She could not move too much. Otherwise, her thunder spirit body would be unstable and it would affect her transformation into a thunder dragon. Fang Yu, you are very good. Very strong. Lai Kun smiled and said, Are you interested in joining our Lai family? I can guarantee the conditions for you on behalf of my father. Hiss, many people sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard this. Lai Kun was representing the Lai family to recruit Fang Yu. That was incredible. The Lai family was a martial emperor family that had risen in the past 100 years. It was like a raging fire that had given birth to many experts. Although they had not reached the level of 2 martial emperors or even more martial emperors, their potential could be seen with the naked eye. If he agreed to join the Lai family now, many resources and even the guidance of a famous teacher would be guaranteed. Such conditions, no matter who it was, would be moved. However, Fang Yu pondered for a moment and shook his head. Sorry, I can't agree. Why? Lai Yin asked curiously. You are not an ordinary warrior, so you should know that if you want to walk down the path of cultivation and go faster, resources and other factors will be more important and take up the main part. I do not deny this point. Fang Yu replied. As the saying goes, even the cleverest housewife cannot cook without rice. For example, Fang Yu was able to cultivate at such a fast speed. Didn't he rely on the super slaughter system to obtain many resources that people could only dream of? You don't have a powerful force behind you, so it's impossible to support your needs. The treasure house, as a rising star, also has great potential. However, the martial king of myriad treasures also wants to take a step forward and become the martial king of myriad treasures, right? Then the resources that can be given to you will be even more limited. The Lai family is different. It is true that the Lai family is a big family, but we also have more resources. Our resources will be spent on people with great potential, and you, Fang Yu, have the qualifications to do so. Everything I said, I can represent the Lai family. Bai Wuxia can testify to this. Lai Kun said solemnly. These words made many people extremely moved. If they were the ones being solicited now, they would have nodded their heads and agreed long ago. Why would they be hesitant? I can testify that what she said is true. She has the power to recruit talents for the family. Bai Wuxia took a deep breath and said. After he finished speaking, he looked at Fang Yu. He wanted to see if Fang Yu would agree. If Fang Yu agreed, he would have a more comfortable path. However, he would be very disappointed with Fang Yu. Very, very disappointed. I see. Then my answer is, I refuse. Fang Yu answered directly. Why? Lai Kun asked again. What you can rely on now is the treasure house, right? Then, you think that the treasure house alone can defeat Swamu? Fang Yu interrupted. This, Lai Kun was stunned. It was true. Although the treasure house was one of Fang Yu's backers, it was impossible for the treasure house to support Fang Yu in defeating Swamu. The Zhou family had many businesses like the treasure house. To say that relying on Zhen Bao Tower could defeat Swamu was undoubtedly a fantasy. So I refuse. Naturally, I have my own confidence. Compared to relying on the martial emperor family, I want to establish my own martial emperor family. Fang Yu said with a smile. Establish your own martial emperor family? Ha 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 ha. Lai Kun seemed to have heard a joke and said, What you said is not easy. It is not easy. Fang Yu admitted frankly. But how many martial emperors can predict that they will become martial emperors from the beginning? The road to martial emperor is a pile of bones. That is the description of most martial artists in the world. I, Fang Yu, will not become a pile of bones. I will become martial emperor. When he said this, many people turned to look at him. This Fang Yu really dared to say this. Becoming a martial emperor was impossible for the vast majority of people in the world. Many people would be satisfied if they could become a martial king or even a martial spirit. For example, the Li family of Skylight City's underworld. Why could the Li family be at the top? It was because the Li family had a martial spirit ancestor. Now that Fang Yu had become a martial spirit, there were many other martial spirits present. However, to them, becoming a martial spirit was far from their ultimate goal. It was just an ordinary step on their path of cultivation. Their ambitions were different and their views were different. Becoming a martial emperor was just a small goal for Fang Yu. Since he knew that there was a higher realm in the world, and that there was a divine realm, Fang Yu naturally wanted to strive for a higher realm. All right, although you rejected me, my promise is still valid. When you regret it, you can come to me. The door of the Lai family will always be open to you. Lai Kun was not angry and said with a smile. Capable people were always more proud and arrogant. If he did not have this much ambition, he probably would not have rejected Lai Kun's proposal. Your woman is flirting with Fang Yu. Aren't you angry? Kegu Air poked Bai Wuxia and asked curiously. What are you talking about? What do you mean by flirting with Fang Yu? Bai Wuxia rolled his eyes at Kegu Air. As one of the most outstanding members of the Lai family, she has the obligation to recruit young talents into the Lai family. It is normal for them to fall under her father's line. Chapter 356. Oh? You're not angry? That's unexpected. Kogure exclaimed in surprise. How could Bai Wuxia not be angry? This was completely out of his expectations. Why should I be angry? Bai Wuxia replied. Oh, I understand now, Kogure said meaningfully. Since she occasionally recruits powerful men, you must have recruited powerful women as well. So, after going back and forth, the two of you are actually tied, right? Bai Wuxia did not know how to refute Kogure's words. This was because before they came to participate in the selection, there were indeed a few female cultivators who came to join the Bai family. At that time, it was Bai Wuxia who was in charge of recruiting them. Humph! Bai Wuxia snorted lightly and did not deny it. Kogure looked at Bai Wuxia with a wide grin on his face, as if he understood everything that Bai Wuxia had said. Time passed slowly while Feng Yu was meditating. Noon was about to arrive. After a period of adjustment, Feng Yu had returned to his peak state. In fact, Feng Yu did not suffer much from the battle last night. However, if people knew that Feng Yu had hidden his strength so deeply, it would not be a good thing. At this time, Feng Yu also noticed some changes. For example, the experience points in the super slaughter system had changed to a percentage. 1%? That means I still have 99% to advance? Feng Yu asked. Ding. Yes. Why is it not a number? I think numbers are very good. Ding. The martial spirit realm focuses on the word spirit. Ordinary numbers are difficult to calculate accurately, so it's changed to a percentage. I can't refute it. Feng Yu thought for a while and realized that he had no way to refute it. He could not help but feel distressed. What about the rest? Oh right, don't I have a Xian skill random voucher? Let me learn Lai Yan's skill. Feng Yu seemed to have thought of something. The series of events had almost made him forget about the important matter. Ding. Learning Lai Yan's Xian skill random voucher. Ding. Successfully learned. Lai Di Codex, Xian Skill Manual. Lai Didian. Feng Yu's eyes blazed. He was no longer the same person as before. Along the way, he had more or less learned what a martial monarch was. Martial emperors. When they became martial emperors, they would use their own great Tao as the foundation to create their own cultivation method and martial arts. There were also those that were all-encompassing and were known as the canon. The Lai Emperor Codex was a cultivation technique created by the Lai Emperor. Similarly, there were also martial arts related to the Lai Emperor in the Lai Emperor Codex. It was a pity that Feng Yu's random learning voucher was for cultivation techniques, and it was only limited to the Xian level. He had no fate with the rest. Lu Shenzhan and the others looked at Feng Yu shaking his head and sighing. They were a little confused, but they didn't dare to ask. While there was still time, Feng Yu's consciousness entered the Elf Emperor's ring. The moment Feng Yu's consciousness entered, he was immediately stunned. Because this place was completely different from before. Feng Yu was a little surprised. This place was dazzling with gold and jade, completely different from before. It was like the difference between a rundown town and a large city. How could there be such a huge change? Feng Yu muttered to himself. Although it had changed from the Elf King's ring to the Elf Emperor's ring, was the difference really that big? Emperor! Klein and the others appeared and immediately knelt down. Congratulations, Emperor, for transforming the Elf King's ring into the Elf Emperor's ring. I didn't expect there to be such a huge difference after the transformation. Feng Yu said. It's because the Emperor has become more powerful, Klein said sincerely. Indeed. Feng Yu didn't deny it. Now that he was the leader of this group of fire elves, it wouldn't be good if he was too humble. By the way, about what we talked about before, Feng Yu changed the topic and said. It's all ready. Klein hurriedly presented an item. Alice's memory is very good. Many years ago, she had memorized our race's alchemy secret manual, including some that she didn't understand. That's very impressive. Fang Yu was a little surprised. If she had memorized the parts that she knew, then there was nothing strange. After all, knowing was almost equivalent to remembering. Now, Alice had even memorized the parts that she didn't understand. Was she really that impressive? Fang Yu browsed through it and was slightly surprised. Alice, you've done well. Yes, thank you for your praise, Emperor. Alice replied sincerely. She was now convinced by Fang Yu's strength. Since you know this, then the herbs that we brought back previously will be arranged by you. You generals will perform your duties and will definitely make the elf race flourish. Fang Yu said seriously. Thank you, Emperor. Alice was very excited. She actually liked alchemy more, but over the years their race had been displaced, and even survival had become a big problem. How could they focus on alchemy like this? Now that everything had stabilized, and with Fang Yu's leadership, the elves could finally get back on track. I know that alchemy will have some requirements, so you can report them to Klein and the two of you. There will be many things in the future that will require you to work together. If you have any requirements, you can tell Klein and report them to me. Fang Yu did not forget to say this to the other two fire elf generals. There were only 4 fire elf generals now, and they were all his right-hand men. He could not let them go to waste. Super Slaughter System, help me organize all the information I have on alchemy, Fang Yu said. He still had one free opportunity to organize the information. He just didn't know if he could organize the information to create what he wanted. Noon has arrived, the core area has opened. An emotionless voice sounded in the air. Soon, the power that isolated the space quickly dissipated, and the core area slowly appeared. You still don't agree to cooperate? The sinister demon asked the Azure Dragon Mirror again. My patience is limited, I hope you won't exhaust my patience. The sinister demon paused for a moment and said, if you can deal with Fang Yu, you can deal with him directly. You've been talking to me non-stop. Isn't it because you're afraid of Fang Yu? The Azure Dragon Mirror said indifferently. It was true that it had placed its hopes on Fang Yu, but no matter how capable Fang Yu was, it would be extremely difficult for him to deal with the sinister demon. The reason why the sinister demon could not be killed was because there were too many demons and they were too powerful. The environment of the demon race was actually very bad. Compared to the 10,000 spirit continent, it was only about 10 to 20%. It was very difficult to cultivate. As the saying went, unruly people came from barren hills and unruly rivers. It was because of this that the demon race's combat power was extraordinary, even much stronger than the barbarian race. The barbarian race was famous for eating raw meat and drinking blood, but it was actually a huge loss. The barbarian race was poor, but it was not suitable for cultivation, so survival was not a problem. Chapter 357. Yu, the evil spirit, was instantly enraged. She was actually afraid of Fang Yu's curse of lightning. It was a very bad thing. She didn't know why Fang Yu was infected with such a thing. However, in some records of the demon race, the curse of lightning was like a maggot attached to a bone. Once infected, one couldn't get rid of it unless they died, until they died. Therefore, she didn't want to deal with such a thing. Therefore, she needed the cooperation of the Azure Dragon Mirror. With the cooperation of the Azure Dragon Mirror, she had 10,000 ways to kill Fang Yu and not be attached to the curse of lightning. Apart from the Azure Dragon Mirror, no one else had such ability. The reason was very simple. The curse of lightning came from a powerful world. This world was stronger than the myriad spirit continent and the demon realm. The horror of the curse of lightning was vaguely recorded in many worlds. It was true that very few people arrived at the great world of thunder, but there were many creatures from the great world of thunder who traveled to the outside world. This was different from many people who went to other worlds to seek opportunities to improve. They came from the great world of thunder. As long as they had a sufficient background, they still had a certain chance of obtaining the mystery of becoming a god. Even if it was very difficult, there was still a chance. However, there were too many giants in the great world of thunder. They wouldn't tolerate too much power that didn't belong to them. Therefore, if they wanted to improve, they could only go to other worlds and borrow the power of other worlds to improve. It was because of this that the curse of lightning spread. Although the world didn't know exactly what the curse of lightning was, it was clear that it was a taboo. A taboo that even people stronger than them didn't want to mess with. Just this point alone was enough to make the evil spirit afraid. As for why she needed the cooperation of the Azure Dragon Mirror, it was because the curse of lightning had a special characteristic. It could only attach to living things. Therefore, there were no consequences if she borrowed the power of the Azure Dragon Mirror to kill Feng Yu. Unfortunately, the Azure Dragon Mirror refused to cooperate. After all, the evil spirit thought that Feng Yu was a big problem, but the Azure Dragon Mirror thought that Feng Yu was their savior. As for relying on other people, these people either couldn't kill Feng Yu or had a terrifying background. For example, Lai Ho, who dared to say that she did not have the power sealed by the Lai Emperor himself. Once the Lai Emperor appeared, the demons would definitely be dead. She didn't want to court death. Then let's see how Feng Yu dies, the sinister devil said viciously. The way she wanted to kill Feng Yu was actually not much different from before. However, after knowing that Feng Yu had so many secrets, the demon was a little worried. Because the evil demons had a high status in the devil realm, they knew a lot of secret. For example, some supreme experts from other worlds would take the initiative to enter the reincarnation cycle of other worlds in order to seek greater fortune. This method was very dangerous. It was more than 10 times more difficult than the reincarnation of a saint. It could be said that it was an absolute failure. However, there were still people who tried, and there were still people who succeeded. What if Feng Yu was such a person? Wouldn't he be digging his own grave? No. Feng Yu and I are like fire and water. One of us must die. It's useless to think about this now. If it really comes to this, then I'll just take it as my bad luck. The demon calmed down, and her eyes were cold. Qing Longjing was a little worried. Originally, it was a good thing that the demon was afraid of Feng Yu. However, now that the demon had calmed down, Feng Yu might be in danger. As for the final result, only the heavens would know. Buzz, as the power that isolated the space was removed, the core area appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Is this the core area? Just the spiritual chi alone is several times more than outside. This is just the surface. This place can give birth to very powerful demonic beasts and spiritual herbs. In short, the real test has only just begun. Yes, many people haven't really made their moves yet. Of course, Zhuamu and Feng Yu are powerful, but only a quarter of a month has passed. The final result hasn't been decided yet. Everyone spoke one after another, filled with lofty sentiments and lofty aspirations. Many of them didn't aim to surpass Feng Yu and the others. They only wanted to enter Azure Dragon College. It would be best if they could get a star rating. After all, although it was possible to enter Azure Dragon College without a star rating, the resources and treatment would be much worse. One step slower. Only the heavens knew how slow it would be. Therefore, fighting for a star rating was still very important. The core area is very big and it's different from the outside. Not every place has a beast tide. The choice is very important, Lu Shuzhan said concisely. System, can you give me a hint? Feng Yu directly asked. Otherwise, if you can't complete the mission, it won't be good for you, right? Ding. Information, 1000. 0 slaughter points. I'll buy it. Feng Yu clenched his teeth and bought it. He was too clear that if he wanted to complete the mission, luck wouldn't work. Moreover, there were many people who had the ability to compete. If he was one step ahead, it wouldn't be good. Since that was the case, spending some slaughter points to buy information was a small investment with a big return. It was worth it. Ding. The host can head to the Wailing Grotto. Ding. There are definitely living people in the Azure Dragon Mirror. There are still some sinners or their descendants here. Ding. Something happened in the Wailing Grotto recently. There will be clues related to the mission. There's such a thing? There are still living people. Fang Yu's eyes widened. This kind of thing was unheard of, never seen before. In the Azure Dragon Mirror, other than us, are there any other living people? Fang Yu asked out of the blue, causing everyone to be stunned. Maybe there are. This time, it was Feng Yaoguang who replied. My father said that there are some descendants of sinners in the Azure Dragon Mirror. Some of them are descendants of cultivators who invaded Azure Dragon College, but no one claimed them, so they were left to fend for themselves in the Azure Dragon Mirror. There are also some who caused great losses to Azure Dragon College. For example, in one of the experiments they caused the deaths of many students. They brought a bramble to ask for forgiveness, and all of their clansmen are focused on researching in the Azure Dragon Mirror. They swore not to leave the Azure Dragon Mirror until the experiment was complete. Has anyone encountered them in the past? Fang Yu clicked his tongue in wonder. Yes, but that was decades ago. In any case, my father didn't encounter them. When he was studying in Azure Dragon College, he also didn't have any relevant information. Otherwise, he would have warned me. After all, living people in the Azure Dragon Mirror are very terrifying existences. Even if there are inspectors, it's still the same. Feng Yaoguang said seriously. Chapter 358. I see realization dawned on Fang Yu. What about the Wailing Grotto? Wailing Grotto? Why are you suddenly asking about the Wailing Grotto? Feng Yaoguang asked in shock. That's not a good place. Oh. Fang Yu asked, why is it not a good place? That's because the Wailing Grotto is an anomaly among the core regions. There are some intersecting spaces inside. If you're not careful, you'll be directly cut apart. It's very dangerous. Why are you asking about the Wailing Grotto? Feng Yaoguang seemed to have thought of something. I want to take a look at the Wailing Grotto. Let's make that our first stop. Fang Yu chuckled. What? The Wailing Grotto? Are you really not joking? Keigu's expression changed. He already said that it was an extremely dangerous place, but he still wanted to go? What was Fang Yu thinking? Yes, I think the clues might be in the Wailing Grotto. Fang Yu said seriously. Clues? You mean? Mo Ling continued. Are you talking about the Saint Ruins that Mayan and the others followed here? The Saint Ruins of the alternate world was the real reason why Mayan and the others came here. If they could obtain the inheritance of a saint, it would be an understatement to say that they could create a clan or a force out of thin air. Even if a martial emperor clan obtained it, it would raise their strength and foundation to a certain extent. How could they not covet it and travel thousands of miles to come here? Actually, this was because the Saint Ruins might be in the Azure Dragon Mirror and not outside. Otherwise, the nearby Saint forces and martial emperor clans would rush over and make a move before the treasure was obtained. It was too costly and not worth it. Using their connections to send their juniors here might cost them some favors, but in terms of cost, it was worth it. At most, they could just treat it as a training experience. This was the news that Mayan and the others had revealed. Otherwise, Fang Yu and the others would still be confused. They did not know why Mayan and the others suddenly came here. You want to go to the Wailing Grotto? Mayan, who had just walked over, looked at Fang Yu. Do you have some information? Oh? Why do you say that? I just have an intuition that the Wailing Grotto has a chance. Fang Yu replied in surprise. How could he explain it? Should he say that he bought it with slaughter points? Who would believe such words? There was no way to explain it. According to the information we have, there are currently 3 places with the highest probability: Wailing Grotto, Blackwood Cliff, and Blue Moon Valley. Among them, Wailing Grotto is a possibility, but the probability is the lowest. Because it's too dangerous, I don't want to go there. We chose the Blackwood Cliff. Another group chose the Blue Moon Valley. There are also some who chose the Wailing Grotto. Mayan told the truth. Since he had truly treated Fang Yu and the others as his allies, there was no need for him to hide certain things from them. He would just speak the truth. Although Fang Yu couldn't explain why he thought of the Wailing Grotto, everyone had their own secrets. Mayan didn't mind. Then, are we going to the Wailing Grotto? Lu Shenzhan asked. When Fang Yu wasn't around, she was the temporary team leader. Now that Fang Yu was back, this responsibility naturally fell to Fang Yu. Therefore, Fang Yu still had to make the decision and nod his head. Yes. Let's go to the Wailing Grotto. Fang Yu's tone was certain. I have a feeling that if we go to the Wailing Grotto, we will probably find something. They were skeptical of Fang Yu's words. However, Fang Yu looked so certain that they could only let him be. After all, Fang Yu was the team leader. That's good. We will split up, but there are some things you need to pay attention to. Mayan nodded slightly. After all, Blackwood Cliff was the result of their discussion. It didn't conflict with Fang Yu and the others. But if you really find something, get Kegu Air or Bai Wuxia to contact us. Mayan added, they have a special way of contacting us. Okay. Fang Yu nodded. Fang Yu, I admit that you are strong. But how much do you think your first place on the list is worth? Mayan thought for a moment and said. Fang Yu was curious about Mei An's sudden question. I can't deny that your performance last night was amazing. But you might not be first place among so many people. Mayan said meaningfully, whether it's my other partner or the person behind the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, they are not weak. You better be careful. Okay, I will remember. Fang Yu nodded. It seemed that the following journey wouldn't be too peaceful. That's good. Since I'm back, I don't need to keep a low profile. Fang Yu's eyes lit up. The Wailing Grotto is the oldest and strangest ruin that has existed for so long. Everyone knows that the Wailing Grotto probably has some kind of fortune. Unfortunately, it is too mysterious and too strange. Since ancient times, no one has been able to find out its true nature. Rumor has it that the upper echelons of the Azure Dragon Institute have been here more than once. At most, they could only improve it a little. Along the way, Feng Yaoguang shared the information she had obtained. It seems that the Wailing Grotto is indeed strange. Captain, are we really going? Kager scratched his head and said, Is it okay? It's too dangerous. Scared? Fang Yu glanced at Kager. What are you talking about? Really, Kager couldn't take it anymore. How could he be called a coward? Was he, Kager, a coward? Really? I can say that the possibility of the Wailing Grotto is very high. Fang Yu lowered his voice and said mysteriously. How high? Bai Wuxia asked curiously. Although he knew that Fang Yu was a person who wouldn't do anything without a diamond, Mayan, Lai Yan, and the others didn't have many clues. Did Fang Yu really have it? Very, very high. I'm 90% sure. Fang Yu said confidently. Bai Wuxia and the others looked at each other. How could he be so sure? I can't tell you where I got the information from, but what I can say is that the biggest clue will definitely be in the Wailing Grotto. What I'm more concerned about is the enemy that Mayan mentioned. Do you think they'll attack us? Fang Yu asked Bai Wuxia. Regarding Mayan, Lai Yan, and the others' plans, Bai Wuxia was probably the one who knew the most. There was no other reason. Kager was still resisting Mayan, unwilling to get close to him. However, Bai Wuxia had met with Lai Yan and probably had a lot to talk about. There were some things that Bai Wuxia should have some clues about. As expected, Bai Wuxia slowly opened his mouth to reply. Chapter 359. They are all from hidden families. Bai Wuxia took a deep breath and said, "Do you know what a hidden family is?" "No," Fang Yu said frankly. Although he had crammed a lot of knowledge about the myriad spirit continent, there were still many things that he did not fully understand. Martial emperor families and sage families were often mentioned recently, but this was the first time he had heard of hidden families. Hidden families, from the name, they are just like that. But in reality, the so-called hidden families are mostly families that no longer have a martial emperor, so they went into hiding. Bai Wuxia explained casually. "There's such a thing." Fang Yu was amazed. "Yes, there's nothing strange about that. Unless their martial emperor suddenly disappeared, they would have left behind many methods to protect the family before they passed away. But you have to know that it's easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. When a martial emperor's family loses the protection of a martial emperor, a lot of prestige will no longer exist, and may even attract covetous eyes." Bai Wuxia said some secrets. The main force of the Bai family was the white-robed divine general, the first divine general under the Lai emperor. The Lai emperor was in his prime, and he was not greedy. He had even established a divine kingdom, so he would not fall so easily. Therefore, the Bai family still had many good days ahead of them. However, some families that flaunted their power when their martial emperor was alive, only to have their martial emperor fall in the end, would not have it easy. They had many enemies, and they were afraid of revenge. This was because the families of martial emperors were not necessarily on good terms with each other. For example, the three-eyed martial emperor and the Lai emperor did not have a good relationship. Firstly, their divine kingdoms were far apart, and secondly, their descendants often clashed with each other. Although it was impossible to form a grudge over such a small matter, it would be a lie to say that they were not on good terms with each other. However, there were many hidden clans that had produced more than one martial emperor. Therefore, they knew that before the birth of the next martial emperor, they had to preserve their strength, so they took the initiative to go into hiding. This time, the people who joined forces with Meian and Lai Yan were the disciples of the hidden families. Even if these people are not the children of the martial emperor, they are the direct descendants. They are very terrifying and powerful, Bai Wuxia said solemnly. "Compared to you?" Fang Yu rolled his eyes and said, "I'm awesome." Bai Wuxia grinned. "Oh, then it's fine," Fang Yu said indifferently. Fang Yu, Bai Wuxia was infuriated. Was he using him as a unit of measurement for combat power? This was truly intolerable. However, this is not absolute. They should still have some hidden fellows. Even Lai Qing personally went to the Saint Relic. He said that the people of the reclusive families only sent a few small fries. Do you believe it? Bai Wuxia continued. That makes sense. Such an important matter must be handled personally. Fang Yu nodded repeatedly. They might become our opponents. Bai Wuxia confirmed again, and the heaven-cleaving alliance. Although they were defeated in the first battle, after a few days of reorganization, they have indeed made some achievement. Before the night of the tribulation, they defeated a lot of famous people and stole a lot of points. Aren't you surprised that you're sitting in the front row now that you're back? Do you think they gave up their seats for you because they were scared stiff? Bai Wuxia looked at Fang Yu and said, Isn't that the case? I thought they were intimidated by my domineering aura and gave up their seats for me in a daze. Fang Yu said in surprise. You really dare to think? Bai Wuxia was a little speechless. It's because some of the guys in front of you have been harvested by them that you're qualified to sit in the front row. Otherwise, you've been missing for a few days. If I say that you're qualified to sit in the front row, would you believe it yourself? I believe it, why wouldn't I believe it? Fang Yu's face was filled with shock. Cut it out. Bai Wuxia spat at this guy. He said that he was fat and he was panting. In short, the heaven-cleaving alliance was like an experiment before, testing the waters. Now is the time to show their fangs. Bai Wuxia reminded him. It's just them, right? Fang Yu said indifferently. These words made Bai Wuxia so angry that he laughed. What do you mean it's just them, right? Is that right? These people were not weak. Although they were not necessarily stronger than Bai Wuxia, it was 2 against 1. It was difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. If it was not a matter of life and death, they might not be able to defeat them. For example, Fang Yu was very strong and could kill Fang Yu. However, if Luo Lan and the others besieged Fang Yu together with Zhuomu without fear of death, it would be difficult for Fang Yu to defeat them. Therefore, he must not be careless. However, looking at Fang Yu's current reaction, if he encountered them, he would definitely suffer a great loss. I know what you're thinking, but I'm not alone. Don't I have you guys? I, Fang Yu, can fight against 10 people alone. It's okay to take turns fighting, but it's difficult to fight against 4 hands with 2 fists. But since I have a group of good teammates, why should I be besieged by them, right? There are 9 of us. Even if there are 20 or 30 of them, I'm not afraid, Fang Yu said generously. As soon as he said this, everyone was moved by Fang Yu's words. They had not known each other for a long time, but Fang Yu was too infectious. He made them feel like they were a team. Even if they were not in the semifinals, they were on the same side. Fang Yu was like a natural leader. Is there really such a person? They were doubting life. Fang Yu could tell what they were thinking. He smiled but did not say anything. Of course, it was impossible for someone to be a natural leader. Even if one was born with the temperament to lead, in terms of ability, it still needed to be tempered. Just like talent. If it could not be fulfilled, it was just talent. In his previous life, Fang Yu had led many brothers and sisters to a bloody path. It was a pity that he was 1 step behind. Otherwise, there would not be the current Fang Yu. Tianxian world, I will definitely return. I will definitely take revenge. Fang Yu's eyes burned with anger. Tianxian world. A graceful figure looked at the distant mountains. Qiutong, what are you thinking about? Suddenly, a man came over. When he wanted to hug Feng Qiutong's shoulder, she moved away without a trace. This made the man slightly stunned. Feng Qiutong still refused to let him touch her. How many years had it been since Fang Yu died? Their alliance, the 4 heavenly gates, had also defeated the Fang League and swallowed more than half of the Fang League's territory. If it weren't for Zhou Shishir and the others who tried their best to resist, they wouldn't have been able to take half of it directly in the end. Unless they paid a terrible price, they would have already broken up the Fang alliance. Chapter 360. However, the 4 heavenly gates, which had risen abruptly, did not have a stable foundation. If they really fought to this extent, there would definitely be other people who would try to swallow them up. That would be meaningless. Hence, the 4 heavenly gates had no way to deal with the remaining members of the Fang Alliance. However, the Fang Alliance had a strong vitality. If they did not eliminate them now, they would not be able to stop them when they recovered and made a comeback. After Fang Yu died, the deputy leader of the Fang Alliance, Zhou Shishir, claimed to be Fang Yu's widow and took over the Fang Alliance to fight against the 4 heavenly gates. Zhou Shishir was a woman who was good at music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. However, she was actually a powerful woman who could easily destroy mountains. She had always liked Fang Yu. Sometimes, she would pretend to be close to him and treat Feng Qiutong as an enemy. Not to mention Feng Qiutong, even Fang Yu could not do anything about her. He silently allowed Zhou Shishir to be close to him. After all, the relationship between Fang Yu and Zhou Shirshi was the best way to stabilize the morale of the Fang alliance. No one would believe such a thing even if he told them about it, alright? However, Fang Yu still fell into the trap. Fang Yu did not care about Zhou Shirshi but was infatuated with Feng Qiutong. In the end, he was killed at the Hongmen banquet. He drank the poisonous wine that Feng Qiutong fed him, which dissolved most of his power. Then, his so-called sworn brothers attacked him together. Fang Yu was very strong. Su Tianyu was truly powerful. Even though Fang Yu was in such a terrible state, he was still able to kill 2 people and severely injure one. Su Tianyu was waiting for an opportunity to kill Fang Yu before Fang Yu could heavily injure the other person. In the end, the 4 heavenly gates were established by Su Tianyu, the one who was seriously injured, the one who was good at concocting poisons, and Feng Qiutong. They were well prepared, especially since 2 of their men had died. They were like fish in water when it came to dividing the loot. The only thing they did not expect was that Zhou Shirshi claimed to be Fang Yu's widow and had so much control over the Fang alliance. Other than the first 2 or 3 clashes, the Fang alliance was not prepared enough and lost a few times. Later on, Zhou Shirshi rallied her forces and retreated as she fought. She practically gave up these cities on her own accord, leaving them helpless. Fang Meng's vitality was still there. They were lying dormant, waiting. Humph! What are we waiting for? Can Fang Yu be resurrected? Su Tianyu sneered. I'm wondering if Fang Yu is really dead. Feng Qiutong replied. Her tone was emotionless, as if she was talking about something insignificant. In fact, to them, Fang Yu, a dead man, was insignificant. However, could Fang Yu come back to life? That's impossible. He was already dead to this extent. The corpses were all destroyed by them. Because of this, Zhou Shirshi was filled with killing intent towards Feng Qiutong and the others. If it wasn't for the fact that she had to protect Fang Meng, she might have come to fight them to the death. Thinking of a saying from back then, they felt somewhat fearful. Zhou Shirshi's talent and potential were not inferior to the number 1 expert of the Fang alliance, Fang Yu. One must know that Fang Yu was about to become one of the 10 strongest people in the profound sky world. Fortunately, he was only about to become one, and not really. Otherwise, they would not have poisoned Fang Yu to death. Haha, how could Fang Yu still be alive? Su Tianyu laughed and said, his corpse was cut into 18 pieces by us, how could he still come back to life? Impossible. It's impossible for him to come back to life. But I feel that Fang Yu is most likely alive somewhere. He's definitely not dead yet. Feng Qiutong's serious life made Su Tianyu feel very uncomfortable in his heart. Although there is the concept of reincarnation in the profound sky world, it is difficult for anyone to control this ability for the time being. Even if it is an ultimate expert, they would have some confidence in it, but they would not dare to say that they are 100% sure. Fang Yu has touched the threshold of an ultimate expert, but he is not a true ultimate expert. It is impossible for him to survive. Su Tianyu said with a cold smile. That's right, Fang Yu was almost cut into pieces by 5 horses. It was impossible for him to come back to life. As for reincarnation, it might be possible. This was because the matter of reincarnation had always been pretended to be true, and there had always been related theories about it. However, the profound sky world was not mature in this aspect and did not have a deep understanding. Therefore, even if Fang Yu was prepared, there was not much chance of success. Since that was the case, what was there to be afraid of? There was nothing to be afraid of. I feel that we should attack the Fang alliance. Feng Qiutong changed the topic and said, what? Attack the Fang alliance? This is not advisable. Su Tianyu's expression changed as he said. Although he was not sure why Feng Qiutong suddenly had such a thought, attacking the Fang alliance was definitely not advisable now. Indeed, the Fang alliance seemed to be losing ground. However, they all knew that Fang Yu had lost on purpose. They knew that they could not win, so they reserved their strength and wanted to make a comeback. Even though they knew that without Fang Yu, the Fang alliance was like a giant sword, they had no choice. It was very powerful but very clumsy. It did not have the sharpness when Fang Yu was around. This kind of Fang alliance, as long as they planned slowly, they could solve it. There was no need to spend too much effort. This would only increase their losses. It was impossible that Feng Qiutong did not understand this principle. Then, what was she so stubborn about now? I am afraid that things will change if we delay. After all, Fang Yu is a person who will take revenge if he has a grudge. Feng Qiutong said frankly, "This kind of Fang Yu is very scary. I like to cut the weeds and eliminate the root." These words gave Su Tianyu a headache. Fang Yu was already dead. She still had to be afraid of this? Had Feng Qiutong lost her mind? Qiutong, this matter needs to be considered at length. After all, they have retreated to the edge and are trying to accumulate strength. Even if we go all out, we will not have a chance to defeat the Fang alliance unless more than half of us are dead or injured. However, if more than half of us are dead or injured, someone will definitely come to us. You should know that there are many people and many forces coveting us. We cannot be careless. Su Tianyu said seriously. He knew that Feng Qiutong was a stubborn person. If she said one, it was one. She would not go back on her word. Therefore, Su Tianyu temporarily calmed Feng Qiutong down and thought about it at length. Feng Qiutong did not say anything. He did not know if she agreed or not. Su Tianyu was irritated. If Fang Yu's corpse had not been snatched away by the Fang alliance, he would have whipped it to vent his anger. Achoo! Fang Yu suddenly sneezed and said, "Could it be that someone is saying that I am handsome behind my back? Captain, stop fooling around. We will reach the Wailing Grotto soon." Lu Shuzhan reminded him seriously. After the night of the tribulation, 3 days had passed in the blink of an eye. It was now the 10th day of the second test. They had also reached their destination this time, the Wailing Grotto. Chapter 361. Okay, I got it. Fang Yu also became more serious. After all, he had heard a lot of strange things about the Wailing Grotto along the way. In short, it was a place that many people didn't want to go. At the same time, they also noticed that someone was following them. Is it the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance or the Reclusive Family? It was as if he was stroking his chin and talking to himself. This question was actually very important. Although Mayan reminded them to pay attention to them, in Fang Yu's opinion, the Reclusive Family was more worthy of attention. After all, they had produced a martial emperor. Their foundation was definitely stronger. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was said to be awe-inspiring, but no one knew the specifics. Fang Yu even felt that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was probably just a few kittens and puppies. The truly powerful one was the person behind the scenes. The so-called person behind the scenes might not be one person. There might be several people. Fang Yu thought to himself. His idea wasn't unreasonable. It was like some conventional rules. The 4 heavenly kings. There were usually 5 of them. Therefore, the mastermind behind the scenes might not be one hand. It was very possible that several people were involved. Did you meet the so-called mastermind behind the scenes? Fang Yu asked. Mastermind behind the scenes? No. Even the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance didn't provoke us after that. Lu Shenzhan shook his head. I see, Fang Yu seemed to understand something. The Wailing Grotto is up ahead. Feng Yaoguang suddenly spoke. What did you sense? Fang Yu asked in confusion. Feng Yaoguang was changing every day these days. It wasn't her cultivation that was changing, but her temperament and aura. In other words, she was transforming from her foundation. He couldn't understand Feng Yaoguang. Long Tianxian woke up by chance and said that Feng Yaoguang was most likely not a human in her previous life, but a holy spirit or something like that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this. Fang Yu asked again what was the temperament of the Holy Spirit. Long Tianxian only answered that the Holy Spirit lineage thought that they were superior and superior. This was their biggest characteristic. Moreover, they were all exceptionally powerful. As for whether it was good or bad, it was different for each person. Just like the rich. There was a saying that the rich were unkind and unworthy of the position. There were also some who said, "The poor are scheming, the rich have a conscience." Therefore, there were many things that could not be generalized. There were good and evil. The human race was like this, the dragon race was like this, let alone the Saint Spirit bloodline. More and more things are waking up in the Wailing Grotto recently. Feng Yaoguang frowned. There's a very powerful being among them. I'm afraid it's a demon king. Demon king. Everyone's pupils shrank. A monster king was equivalent to a martial king of the human race. However, in terms of strength, it was superior to a martial king. The reason was very simple. The body of a demonic beast was much stronger than that of a human. It was a natural weapon. What good would it be to fight against such a character? Furthermore, none of them were martial kings. Therefore, encountering a demon king was extremely dangerous. Fang Yu wasn't afraid. His contracted demonic beast was the Void Rat. Or rather, the Void Rat King. In places where space was chaotic, it was the Void Rat King's home ground. There was nothing to be afraid of. However, the fact that the other party was able to survive in such a chaotic place was not to be underestimated. Perhaps they had similar abilities. If they underestimated the enemy, they would suffer a great loss. In short, they had to be wary, but there was no need to be too nervous. Everyone calmed down when they saw Fang Yu's confident look. After all, Fang Yu had always been a mysterious person in their eyes. If Fang Yu said that there was no problem, then there was probably no problem. Are they not going to show themselves? When they were about to reach the Wailing Grotto, Fang Yu asked curiously. The people of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the hidden families had been following them for a long time. Why didn't they show themselves? They were preparing to enter the Wailing Grotto. They're not attacking us now. There's a high chance that they won't attack us. Bai Wuxia thought for a moment and said, because if they can't deal with us, it's meaningless to force them to attack. It's better to lie low and hide their strength. Although we haven't fought them head-on, the previous events have already made them wary. They don't have full confidence in defeating us for the time being, so they're avoiding us. That makes sense. Fang Yu nodded. It's fine if they don't come out. The Wailing Grotto is right in front of us anyway. I don't want to waste too much energy here. That's right. If there was a conflict before entering the Wailing Grotto, Fang Yu might have really fought and treated it as a warm-up exercise. However, the Wailing Grotto was right in front of them, and they didn't dare to show themselves. If they waited until they entered, then they would be avoiding them completely. What else was there to say? Fang Yu looked up and saw that the Wailing Grotto was really a huge grotto. The entrance looked like a creature with its mouth wide open and screaming. He couldn't tell if it was a human or a beast, but since it didn't look like a human, it was most likely a beast. Suddenly, He Ping stopped and looked at the entrance of the Wailing Grotto. Someone's been here. Someone's been here? Everyone was stunned. They should be the first to arrive, right? Because they were very strong, even if they were a little faster, they weren't afraid of being targeted by the beasts. The beasts that could live in the core area for so many years were not kind and could sense danger. They could smell a fatal threat from Fang Yu's group. Therefore, they all turned invisible obediently and made way for Fang Yu's group. There were also some that didn't know what was good for them, and they were all killed. Speaking of which, the number of people who were obsessed with fighting with martial artists or killing beasts had decreased by a lot. This was all because of a new rule announced by the Azure Dragon Mirror. Anyone who obtained the fortune of the ruins in the core area would receive double the points reward. This way, it was undoubtedly more tempting to snatch the fortune. Firstly, they could obtain the fortune, and secondly, they could earn points, killing two birds with one stone. However, He-Ping said that someone had arrived at the Wailing Grotto before them. How was that possible? Were they that stubborn? We should be the first to arrive. Lu Shuzhan frowned and asked, there shouldn't be anyone who arrived before us. No, it shouldn't be us candidates. He-Ping shook her head and said, these marks are a little repetitive, which means that someone has been here for the past few days and more than once, repeatedly entering the Wailing Grotto. Could it be someone from the Azure Dragon Mirror? Lu Shuzhan was shocked. I remember that the people in the Azure Dragon Mirror are called sinners or descendants of sinners. Fang Yu touched his chin and said, yes. No matter if they were the descendants of the martial artists who invaded the Azure Dragon Institute or committed a grave mistake, they are called descendants of sinners. That's right. Feng Yaoguang nodded and said, but no one has seen them for many years, so they don't dare to show themselves and avoid us. Chapter 362. Alright, since we're already here, let's take things as they come. Since we're already here, even if there's something here, we can't just turn around and leave, right? Fang Yu comforted everyone. Everyone nodded slightly. That was the logic. Since they were already here, they couldn't just retreat because they felt that this place was dangerous, right? That would be too boring. Moreover, according to Fang Yu, the saint remains was closely related to the Wailing Grotto. The value of the saint remains was self-evident. Hence, why shouldn't they take a risk? Let's go in. Fang Yu said. All right. Under Fang Yu's lead, everyone went straight in. After watching Fang Yu and the rest leave, a few figures slowly walked out. They were the cultivators who had been secretly following Fang Yu. My lord, should we? Someone made a throat-slitting gesture at a luxuriously dressed young lady. It was unwise to kill someone in the Azure Dragon Mirror. That was because the Azure Dragon Mirror could monitor the entire second round. However, nothing was absolute. The Azure Dragon Mirror wasn't omnipotent. For example, the Wailing Grotto was an exception. The Wailing Grotto was too complicated. It was so complicated that even the experts of the Azure Dragon Institute couldn't explain it clearly. As such, the Azure Dragon Mirror couldn't monitor the situation here at all times. Killing someone would only be considered murder if there was conclusive evidence. Otherwise, if some idiot was accidentally killed by the Wailing Grotto's power, could they blame others for that? It couldn't be. That was what they had in mind. Even though Fang Yu's performance on the night of the tribulation was outstanding and could even be said to have shocked everyone, they weren't afraid. They weren't so frightened that they didn't dare to act. If there was a reason, it was because their master, the lord they spoke of, was more powerful. Fang Yu might not be stronger than their lord. With their lord around, what was there to be afraid of? Our main goal this time is still the saint remains. We chose the Wailing Grotto to try our luck, but with Fang Yu here we might be able to gain something. The luxuriously dressed young lady shook her head and said. Her subordinates were somewhat dumbfounded. Was it because of this that he let Fang Yu go? Wasn't it a little far-fetched? What? You think that what I said is wrong? Or is it that my words don't hold any weight? The luxuriously dressed girl looked at her subordinate. I don't dare. They didn't even dare to say anything. As long as you perform well, those who pass the second round will continue to follow me. Those who fail can report to my family and serve my family. The luxuriously dressed girl smiled and said, although my martial emperor ancestor has long since fallen, our family's foundation is still very strong. We just happen to need some loyal and devoted people with great potential to help us. Yes, sir. These words could be said to have given them a shot of adrenaline, and their morale immediately soared. After all, they were ordinary members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. However, after the first failure, they did not know how the person behind the scenes of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance did it. He actually got involved with the members of some reclusive families. What was even more shocking was that the members of the reclusive families were all lightly armed this time, and they did not bring any servants or the like. It was unrealistic for them to directly fight against the strong. It was like a trump card. If they used this card every time, then this card could not be called a trump card. It could only be said that there was no card to play. Therefore, since they had cooperated, they were given some people to lead. They were not very clear about the origin of this person. They only knew that her surname was Jiang. Although her style of doing things was completely different from ordinary people and was a little strange, she was very easy to talk to. Moreover, she promised them conditions when they met. There were not too many empty words, so they were immediately convinced. What was even more frightening was that the Lord's plan was flawless. If she said one, it was one. It was impossible for there to be two. Such a method was simply amazing. How could they not bow their heads and submit? Although they felt that if they missed this opportunity, they might not be able to deal with Feng Yu in the future. However, since the Lord said so, then it must be right. Because this was what the Lord said. Woo woo, wah wah, ah. Wailing Grotto was filled with all sorts of sorrowful cries. There are quite a lot of minerals here. Many of them are not commonly seen outside. They can be used to forge weapons and make medicine. Wang Zhong was very knowledgeable and said, "Did you also learn these things when you were in a sage family?" Feng Yu asked curiously. Although strictly speaking, Bai Wu Xie was also from a sage family, but as the grandson of the White Robe General, he must have been treated well since he was young. There were some things that were useless to ask. If he wanted to know the details, he would have to ask Wang Zhong. After all, Wang Zhong was from a branch of a sage family. The things that he knew were more down to earth and more realistic. The sage family is also different. Just like a saying, a martial sage family is not necessarily a sage family. A sage family is definitely a martial sage family. A martial sage family is a family with sufficient strength. However, a sage needs to have a noble character. It is different. Wang Zhong said proudly. But what is the difference between life and death? Kogu was a little confused. In the land of the barbarian race, the strong were respected. Although after breaking away from the rule of the berserk beasts, they had gradually distanced themselves from eating raw meat and drinking blood. The only thing that they lacked was cultivation resources. As for the rest, it was not worth talking about. In fact, the barbarian race blindly believed that only strength was supreme. Strength was everything. Therefore, the things that Wang Zhong said were too complicated and did not suit his taste. What do you barbarian race know? The martial emperors of the barbarian race are called barbarian emperors. The martial sages of the barbarian race are called barbarian saints. Although you and Mayan are special cases, but relatively speaking, there are not many people like you. However, in the sage family there are many people who are as hardworking as me. Therefore, I, Wang Zhong, must be even more hardworking and eager to learn. Otherwise, I will be trampled under others' feet and left behind. This is different from the barbarian race. The difference is huge. Wang Zhong said solemnly, leaving Kogu speechless. They are all different Daos. We only look at the results and not the process. Although sometimes the process is very important. Feng Yu said before Kogu could speak, leaving Kogu speechless. Because Feng Yu was trying to smooth things over. Since the captain was trying to smooth things over, they had to give face to him. Shh! Wait, something is coming. Feng Yu suddenly stopped them. His spiritual sense was the strongest, so he could vaguely sense something. Sinner, I am a sinner. Chapter 363. Sinner? I'm a sinner? Fang Yu was stunned. What was this person talking about? Could it be that we've really met the sinners who were exiled here? Fang Yu's heart skipped a beat. If that was the case, things would be bad. Because those who were exiled here must have committed a heinous crime. To be able to commit such a heinous crime in the Azure Dragon Institute, they were definitely not ordinary people. As for why he said it was the sinner himself, and not the descendant of a sinner, it had something to do with the somewhat deranged tone of the other party. We might be meeting the sinners who live here, Fang Yu said softly. Everyone was shocked. Now that they were all martial spirits, they were all people with spiritual awareness. It was impossible for Fang Yu to sense it. However, the fact was that Fang Yu had sensed it, but they had not. Just as they finished thinking, their spiritual awareness really did sense something. Sinner. I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner. The person who spoke became more and more deranged, causing everyone's hair to stand on end. Who is this? Why is he so strange? Everyone was shocked. What was this? Why did he seem so deranged? It was really too strange. Let's hide first, Fang Yu suggested. That's right. No matter who it was, whether it was a human, a ghost, or some other living thing, it was not a good idea to meet him head-on. It wouldn't be too late to make a decision after hiding for a while and seeing what was going on. Everyone agreed with Fang Yu's idea and immediately hid. Not long after, a figure appeared. It was an old man carrying a medicine basket. His whole body was dirty and his steps were unsteady. He trembled as if he would fall at any time. However, when you really thought that he would not fall. He forced himself to stand up straight again. It was simply godly. Who is this? It's so strange. Lu Xinjian frowned. One of the reasons why she felt that this person was strange was that the aura he emitted was very strong. Even the weakest was a martial king. Furthermore, to be able to live in this place for so many years, he was probably not an ordinary martial king. What's this smell? Mo Ling was the first to realize that something was wrong. A stench? No, that's not right. Before Mo Ling could finish his words, the world around him started to spin. Bang! 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 Mo Ling, Lu Xuzhan, Kager, and the others fell one after another. This, Fang Yu's expression changed. When he realized that something was wrong, he had already sealed off his 5 senses and distanced himself from this lunatic. Be careful. Who knows when he's drugged you? It's a very strange and miraculous drug. It's usually found in the Western domain. Feng Yaoguang said hurriedly. Feng Yaoguang's words caught the madman's attention. I didn't expect this little girl to know so much. This is the mind enchantment incense from the western regions. It can be burned or taken orally. When burned, it can knock down the enemy with its smell. When taken orally, it can temporarily calm the mind. Although the taste is not very good, it's fine. Fang Yu, run. Feng Yaoguang was also on the verge of collapse. Although she had been reborn in the past few days, the time was still too short. It was impossible for her to truly be reborn. When Feng Yaoguang was about to fall, Fang Yu caught her. After taking a look, he realized that Feng Yaoguang, Mo Ling, and the others had really fainted and their lives were not in danger. Only then did Fang Yu heave a sigh of relief. Senior, why are you doing this? Fang Yu asked directly. Sometimes, being too direct wasn't a good thing. However, sometimes, being direct wasn't a bad thing. I'm here to look for the ingredient. My elixir is just 1 step away from completion, the old man said slowly. When he spoke, his expression changed greatly. It seemed like he was awake and confused at the same time. It was hard to tell whether he was awake or confused. But what does it have to do with you drugging my friends? Fang Yu replied, feeling a headache coming on. The reason why he only had a headache was because he was sure that the other party didn't have any bad intentions. If the other party's purpose was to harm Mo Ling and the others, Fang Yu wouldn't let him off no matter what. However, the other party didn't give him the feeling that he had come with bad intentions, even though he had indeed drugged his friends in a single encounter. I won't be able to get the materials I need alone. I need help. Help me. The old man said, as long as you help me, I'll let you go and give you a reward. Let me go? Reward? Fang Yu found it funny. He was about to reply when his eyes shifted. Oh right, old man, you've been here all this time. Have you noticed the difference? What's the difference? The old man asked. Have there been any changes in this place these past few days? Fang Yu asked tentatively. According to He Ping, this strange old man should have been in and out of the Wailing Grotto recently. Moreover, this person was a martial king. Did he know the secret of this place? Change. What do you want to ask? The old man seemed to have woken up, but he still seemed confused. However, he could barely answer Fang Yu's question. Is there a space that suddenly appeared? Fang Yu pondered for a moment before choosing a question that he felt was more appropriate. Since the saint's remains had appeared here, needless to say, it must have appeared in the form of a space. Since the other party was searching for ingredients here, he most likely knew the route to the Wailing Grotto. In other words, the chances of him knowing about the saint's remains were very high. Yes. It suddenly appeared and occupied a very chaotic location. However, there weren't any herbs growing in this location, so I didn't pay much attention to it. In fact, such spaces would appear and disappear from time to time. It's very dangerous, and most of them don't have any herbs, so I didn't care. The old man's answer made Fang Yu's eyes light up. The saint's remains was really here. Then can you bring me there? Fang Yu asked again. Sure, but there's a condition. Help me improve the medicinal pill. I'm only missing one medicinal herb. As long as I can obtain that medicinal herb, I'll be able to further improve my medicinal pill, as well as lessen my sins. When he said the word sins, the old man revealed a pained expression. How long will it take? Fang Yu asked hesitantly. The other party had been here for at least a few decades. To not be able to improve the elixir after a few decades, one could imagine the difficulty. What if the other party needed a few years to complete the last step? In a few years, if Fang Yu worked hard, he might even graduate from the Azure Dragon Institute. Therefore, although this condition seemed very tempting, Fang Yu didn't dare to agree so as to avoid trouble. Chapter 364. 3 days. The old man replied seriously, 3 days is enough. 3 days. If it's 3 days, it's possible. Fang Yu replied. To be honest, the space of the Wailing Grotto was overlapping. If one came here aimlessly, they would have to try their luck. This was the real reason why Mayan and the others did not take the initiative to choose the Wailing Grotto. There was no point in trying their luck here if they did not succeed in the end. It was better to choose the simpler Blackwood Cliff and Blue Moon Valley. Although there were more Wailing Grotto in the chaotic space, it seemed more likely. Okay. The old man nodded. But my friends, Fang Yu asked hurriedly. They will wake up in a while. You can leave a message and ask them to wait for you here for 3 days. The old man said again. But what if people come from outside? As their captain, their leader, I can't just abandon them. Fang Yu glanced at the unconscious Mo Ling and the others and said, Don't worry, the Wailing Grotto has been foggy recently. It happened in the past half a year. Every time there is fog you can't enter or leave. It will last for about 3 days. Today is the day of the fog. The old man said without hesitation, once there is fog, you can only walk around the entrance. It's difficult to take a step forward. At the same time, after confirming that Fang Yu and the others were far away, Jiang asked a few subordinates of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to follow her into the Wailing Grotto. At the same time, a few of her subordinates took the initiative to scout the way. However, as soon as they got close, one of her subordinates realized that something was wrong. "Sir, there's fog here." "It's fog, we can't go in. I walked around and came out again." The members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance were shocked. How could this be? What was going on? Let me see. Jiang did not believe it and tried it herself. However, the result was similar to the others. They could not see the path at all and came out again without feeling anything. Is this the Wailing Grotto itself? Jiang muttered to herself. Could it be that Fang Yu and the others did something? Someone couldn't help but say, Fang Yu has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. It's not strange for him to have such ability. No, it wasn't Fang Yu. The young woman with the surname Jiang shook her head gently. He doesn't have the ability to do that. Or rather, Fang Yu isn't proficient in this field. I'm afraid that even a grandmaster wouldn't be able to set up such a formation. After all, even I couldn't sense it. Are they Fang Yu's companions? His accomplices are all capable people. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance said again. They're not Fang Yu's companions either. Have you ever seen any of Fang Yu's companions understand formations? Even if he did, it would be impossible for him to be at this level. Therefore, it can only be a problem with the Wailing Grotto itself. The girl surnamed Jiang exhaled softly and said, "This, then." Everyone looked at each other. Then what should he do? Did I come here for nothing? Even if he were to head to Blackwood Cliff and Blue Moon Valley now, he reckoned that someone else would be one step ahead of him. There was no point in eating leftovers. There's no hurry. We'll just wait here. The girl surnamed Jiang said generously, "From what I know, this kind of fog will dissipate in 3 to 5 days at most. We won't be in a hurry to enter then." But that's still 3 to 5 days late. Some people felt that this plan was inappropriate. 3 to 5 days. If the other party was lucky, they would have succeeded by now. Don't tell me that you think that you can succeed in 3 to 5 days? This is the Saint's Ruins. At most, you'll be one step ahead of us. It won't be that easy to enter. The girl surnamed Jiang said leisurely, "I once followed the elders of my family to explore the ruins of a saint. Just the door alone took 7 days and 7 nights, and that was with the help of the powerhouses of my family. Without the help of the powerhouses of my family, I don't know if 7 days and 7 nights will be enough to enter the saint's ruins. That's why we'll let them take advantage of us and be one step ahead of us." In the end, the girl with the surname Jiang flipped her palm and directly conjured a tent. She went in and found a completely different world. Inside was a beautifully decorated boudoir. "Little you, come in and serve me," the girl with the surname Jiang said lazily. "Yes, my lord." The girl who had been called out went in eagerly. This lord had mentioned that if she could really enter the Azure Dragon Academy, she could take her in as a headmaid. Perhaps some people would think that it was degrading for a proud child of heaven to be a headmaid, but that was not the case. It was too difficult to reach the peak by relying on oneself. The Martial King of Many Treasures and the Martial King of Many Treasures could be said to be one of the representatives of the Azure Dragon Academy's graduates. However, if the Martial King of Many Treasures didn't have a greater fortune, his limit would be the Martial Emperor. However, if she could gain the favor of the Lord, she would naturally have more opportunities to become a Martial Emperor. She might even become a Martial Emperor faster than the Martial King of Many Treasures. Fang Yu left a note and followed the old man. He didn't say anything along the way. Ugh! Fang Yu, what's going on? How did the delicate little girl disappear and turn into an old man? Long Tianxian had just woken up and said in a daze. Fang Yu helplessly repeated the matter. What? There's such a thing. Long Tianxian was speechless. It seems that this person is at least a master alchemist, and his rank is not low. Yes, I think so too. Moreover, he has rich combat experience. The people on our side were defeated before they could react. Fang Yu nodded. Of course. Look at what kind of damned place this is. If he didn't have some strength, how could he have lived until now? It's just that he is indeed strange. Will there be any problems if you follow him like this? Long Tianxian said worriedly. I'm transforming into a thunder dragon. I definitely can't make a move for the time being. Moreover, I might fall into a deep sleep. It's very troublesome. If you were to undergo a normal nirvana rebirth, how long would you need to cultivate? Fang Yu seemed to have remembered something and said, a normal nirvana rebirth? I would probably have to start from scratch. Although my current rank is not very high, transforming into a thunder dragon is still very promising. The main thing is that I can help. Long Tianxian said earnestly. Fang Yu, look at me. I'm already doing this for you. When you have the ability in the future, if you don't help me find a few little female dragons, would you be able to face me? Fang Yu couldn't be bothered to chat with Long Tianxian. He looked at the old man in front of him and said, Yes, I haven't asked for your name yet. How should I address you? Name? Address? Hee, the current me is just a sinner. The old man laughed. His words were full of self-mockery. If you really want to address me, then call me medicine maniac. Chapter 365. Alchemy Maniac? That's a rather unique name. Fang Yu muttered to himself, then, Senior Alchemy Maniac, may I know what herb we're looking for? There's no harm in telling you. It's blue spider lilies. Alchemy Maniac replied. Blue spider lilies? I remember that spider lilies are a rather rare herb. Then, wouldn't blue spider lilies be even rarer? Fang Yu asked in surprise. Yes, that's right. Compared to ordinary red spider lilies, blue spider lilies are rarer. Alchemy Maniac said expressionlessly. Oh my God! Fang Yu was surprised. If this herb is very rare, wouldn't it be a pity that it can't be widely distributed? Pity? Wrong. It's not a pity, not a pity. I was too naive back then. Just now. Sigh. Alchemy Maniac was unwilling to say more. Besides, it's not impossible to cultivate blue spider lilies. It's just that, in my previous experiments, I made a mistake and wasted a lot of them. Now, they're not fully grown and have no effect at all. I dare say that after this trip, everything will be settled. Alright. Alchemy Maniac had already made such a solemn vow. What else could Fang Yu do? What else could he say? Feng Yaoguang woke up in a daze. As soon as she woke up, she saw everyone standing or sitting nearby with ugly expressions. Sigh, what should we do now? Kegu was very distressed. According to Brother Fang, even if we want to retreat now, we probably can't, right? Yes, he said that the fog will last for at least 3 days. Before that, we can't go in or out. There's nothing we can do. Emoling nodded and said, I've already tested it. What he said is true. We really can't go out unless our formation attainments reach the level of a Grandmaster. Formation Grandmaster? If I'm a Grandmaster, I probably won't participate in the selection of the 4 great academies, right? The corner of Bai Wuxia's mouth twitched. Then we can only wait or do some small activities. Lu Xinjian made the final decision. Since Fang Yu wasn't around, it should be up to her as the vice-captain. What happened? Feng Yaoguang asked doubtfully, Where's Fang Yu? Fang Yu, he left with a senior. He said he was a senior, but the first thing he did was to drug us. I don't want to meet a second senior like him. Kegu Air pouted and said, What? Feng Yaoguang's beautiful face turned pale. Sister Feng, don't be anxious. After all, the message that Feng Yu left behind was of his own volition, and he only left after confirming that there's no danger. Is there really no danger? Feng Yaoguang sighed. I have a bad feeling. No matter how bad your feeling is, it's useless. That old man was too powerful. We didn't even know what he did and we were drugged. He's probably a master alchemist with the strength of a martial king. Even if Feng Yu doesn't want to leave with him, it'll be difficult, Bai Wuxia said calmly. Bai Wuxia said coolly. But if they really want to harm us, Feng Yu alone can't do anything to stop them. The only possibility is that they don't have any ill intentions. They met us and even drugged us. It's more like they're probing us to see if we have any suitable helpers. If they don't, then that's good. If they don't, then they won't do anything to us. In any case, Feng Yu asked us to wait for 3 days. After 3 days, we'll know. Moreover, I feel that Feng Yu is a person who cherishes his life. If there's any danger, he'll be able to escape unscathed. Lu Shenzhan comforted Feng Yaoguang. All right, then we'll wait for 3 days. If Feng Yu doesn't return after 3 days, Feng Yaoguang's eyes were sharp. After saying that, she sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Following that, a feeling of metamorphosis spread out from her body. Fortunately, no one can enter for 3 days. Although it's not good for us to leave this place, we can still explore a small area. Moreover, there are many strange flowers and minerals here. It's worth studying. Lu Shenzhan said excitedly. She was a half-step master blacksmith. She was naturally fond of special materials. Although the Wailing Grotto was strange and dangerous, it also had many strange materials that made Lu Shenzhan's heart beat faster. Legend has it that there are some living beings here whose cries are similar to humans. I'll go kill a few of them. Bai Wuxia was also eager to give it a try. I'll go too. Kegu Air volunteered. I wonder if these living beings can be eaten? Mo Ling watched as everyone went about their own business. She tapped on an 8-trigram plate in boredom and hesitated. Senior alchemy maniac, we seem to have walked for a long time. Along the way, we seem to have seen blue flowers. Why don't you take a look and see if they're blue spider lilies? Feng Yu reminded alchemy maniac. Feng Yu wasn't a well-read person, but he had seen spider lilies in some ancient book. No matter which world it was, spider lilies were considered to have a special symbol of flowers and couldn't be underestimated. Although there weren't many along the way, there were still a few small blue spider lilies. Why didn't Alchemy Maniac pick them? Where were they going now? As Feng Yu and the others went deeper into the Wailing Grotto, the cries became more and more obvious, causing them to tremble in fear. Moreover, Feng Yu was surprised to find that these cries could affect one's mental state. It was very strange, very strange. There are blue spider lilies, Alchemy Maniac answered honestly. But it's not the blue spider lilies I want. Feng Yu was speechless for a moment. There are blue spider lilies, but they're not the blue spider lilies you want. Do you know what you're talking about? First of all, there's a difference between the medicinal efficacy of 1 and 2 blue spider lilies. Therefore, I don't need some unripe blue spider lilies. Moreover, I've already used the ones I had before. To be honest, I'm not very satisfied with their medicinal efficacy. Although I've found the correct way to use them, the medicinal efficacy isn't enough and it will affect the ratio. I've already reached the final step of improving this type of pill. As long as I succeed, my atonement will be over. At this juncture, I don't want any mistakes. Alchemy Maniac's answer was reasonable, and Feng Yu couldn't refute it. Then, the Blue Spider Lily's senior alchemy maniac is looking for Feng Yu probed. Could he say that he already had a bad premonition? Currently, he felt as if he had entered a bottomless mouth. There was a path under his feet, but there was no end in front of him. Chapter 366. This is the king of the blue hurricane lilies. I don't know how long it's been growing. Its medicinal power is amazing. I've seen it before and wanted to take it. Unfortunately, I didn't notice the importance of the blue hurricane lilies in the pill. Moreover, it's guarded by a spirit beast. I didn't have absolute confidence in taking it, so I had to give it up. Now that you're here, I'm at least 50% confident. Potion Maniac said without hiding anything. This. Senior Potion Maniac, if even you're afraid of the spirit beast, doesn't that mean it's a monster king? Fang Yu gulped. Of course, Fang Yu was not afraid of a monster king. However, Fang Yu was not strong enough to provoke a monster king for no reason. Potion Maniac's behavior was really, it's a monster king. Potion Maniac nodded. It's the Blackwater mystical snake. Its bloodline may not be that pure, but it's more or less talented to be able to cultivate to the level of a monster king. It has been guarding the blue hurricane lilies, so it must be relying on them to cultivate. Hearing this, Fang Yu was speechless. So they were going to take the Blackwater mystical snake's cultivation item? It would be a lie if it didn't fight to the death. After all, the Blackwater mystical snake was not that talented. It must have relied on external forces to cultivate to this level. As for what external forces it relied on, it was obvious. It was the blue hurricane lilies that Potion Maniac was going to take. The moment he thought of this, Fang Yu felt a headache coming on. What the hell was going on? If it's the Blackwater mystical snake, maybe it'll work. Long Tianxian said, the Blackwater mystical snake is a branch of the Dragon clan, just like the Zhua clan and the Three-Eyed Martial Emperor clan. They're related. You mean? Fang Yu's eyes lit up as he began to understand what Long Tianxian was talking about. That's right, the Dragon Gate. If you use the power of the Dragon Gate, the Blackwater mystical snake should be fine. But you can't keep using the Dragon Gate. You have to know that no matter how powerful the dragon is, the more powerful the beast is, the more energy you need to consume. It's not a joke. Long Tianxian reminded Fang Yu, so, you have to be careful. Besides, this Potion Maniac is here, and he's the one who's looking for the blue hurricane lily. You can let him fight with the Blackwater mystical snake while you collect the blue hurricane lily. Alchemy Madman saw Fang Yu's sudden silence, and thought that he was intimidated by the Blackwater Serpent's name. He continued, the Blackwater Serpent might look scary at first glance, but I'll deal with it. You can just focus on harvesting. Senior Potion Maniac, can you tell me why it has to be this? Fang Yu asked curiously. Although Potion Maniac called himself a maniac, Fang Yu could tell that he wasn't really crazy. For example, he had discovered this special blue hurricane lily earlier, but he didn't dare to attack it for fear of its guardian spiritual beast. Was he really crazy? Definitely not. Therefore, there must be a reason why Potion Maniac was so persistent. This is a special blue hurricane lily. It's the king and the ancestor. After I take away the part 1 want, I can continue to cultivate the rest. Then, I won't have to worry about the blue hurricane lily ever again. Potion Maniac spoke eloquently. Well, alright. Fang Yu couldn't find a reason to refute. He could only agree. Soon, the blue hurricane lily I want is just 1,000 feet ahead. After walking for a while, Potion Maniac suddenly said. Fang Yu looked over curiously. Indeed, he saw his target in the distance. The blue hurricane lily. This blue hurricane lily was ridiculously huge. It was 10 times the size of an ordinary blue hurricane lily. Its blue light flowed like a small blue sun shining in the darkness. Blackwater mystical snake. Before Fang Yu could finish his words, his expression suddenly changed. In the vicinity of the blue hurricane lily, there was indeed a shadow as black as ink moving slowly. It was the Blackwater mystical snake. It hid all its aura. How cunning! Fang Yu was shocked. The Blackwater mystical snake was lying dormant in the darkness. If Potion Maniac hadn't told him in advance, Fang Yu wouldn't have noticed it. Because its color was close to black, and its aura was restrained, it was impossible to detect its presence. If a monster king was so dormant, it would be severely injured if it was ambushed. The Blackwater mystical snake had the advantage of time, place, and people. It had also injured its opponent. Killing it would be a piece of cake. Senior Potion Maniac, what are you going to do? Fang Yu asked. This beast usually guards the blue hurricane lily. It only leaves temporarily when it's eating. I'll lure it away, and you take the opportunity to take the blue hurricane lily. This is a spade and a space storage bottle. Only by storing them can the blue hurricane lily be kept alive. Also, this dark water mystical snake is not an idiot. After about 100 breaths, it will realize that something is wrong and turn back. By then, I will try to stop it for a while, but it has the advantage here. I can't stop it all the time. While handing the items to Fang Yu, Potion Maniac said seriously, so, you have to be quick. Don't let the Blackwater mystical snake catch you. Otherwise, it may swallow the blue hurricane lily directly. So cruel. Fang Yu had a troubled look on his face. Can it replant it or something like that? It's too wasteful to swallow it. Maybe for human beings. But for demonic beasts? Not necessarily. Potion Maniac shook his head and said, demonic beasts are divided into different species. Some of them can be said to be ruthless. If they can't get it, you can't get it either. That's how simple and straightforward they are. I understand. Fang Yu replied with a serious expression. In fact, he was just pretending. According to Long Tianxian, even if the Blackwater mystical snake did come back, it might not be able to do anything to him. However, Potion Maniac was right about one thing. Some demonic beasts were extremely ruthless. If they couldn't get it, they wouldn't get it even if they destroyed it. Therefore, it was better to do it cleanly. Otherwise, if he really made the Blackwater mystical snake angry, things would be difficult. Is there any way that the Blackwater mystical snake won't dare to hold a grudge against me, but will avoid me instead? Actually, I think Potion Maniac's plan is quite risky. One careless mistake and there will be a mistake. It's better to be prepared. Fang Yu asked Long Tianxian. That's easy. But I can't tell you now. When it comes to that, call me and I'll clean up the mess for you. Long Tianxian said with a smile. Chapter 367. You're acting so mysterious. If you can't handle it, I'll throw you out to force the Blackwater mystical snake to retreat. Fang Yu was a little dissatisfied with Long Tianxian's mystifying approach. Oh, look at what you're saying. Am I doing this on purpose? I just want to test out a method. Long Tianxian was not in a hurry. She somewhat understood Fang Yu's temper. Fang Yu was a person who valued result. As for the process, although it was not that he did not care that much. As long as the result was good, Fang Yu would not say anything more. Is it Dragon Aura? That's not a new move. Fang Yu suddenly asked. No. Draconic Aura, this is your last resort. Actually, I don't recommend you to use this move too often. Long Tianxian explained. Why? Fang Yu's interest was suddenly piqued. He wanted to know why Long Tianxian did not recommend using this move. You still ask why? Dragon Aura is a move that only the Dragon Clan has. Are you a dragon? You're not. But where did your Dragon Aura come from? Your Dragon Aura is released by the Dragon Gate. Then here's the problem. A treasure like the Dragon Gate is a great temptation to all living things in the world. Don't forget that you told the Azure Dragon Institute that the Dragon Gate flew away and went to find the first-generation Dean. They were only half convinced. If they know that you've actually kept the Dragon Gate for yourself, I don't need to say more about the result. Long Tianxian's smug look made Fang Yu want to beat her up. Kid, don't daydream. Get ready. Potion Maniac reminded Fang Yu with some dissatisfaction. What was wrong with this kid? He saw that he was quite smart before, so he thought of asking Fang Yu to help him get the herbs. Now, he was daydreaming from time to time. What if something went wrong when he was getting the herbs? One had to know that the more precious a spiritual herb was, the more careful one had to be. One could not be careless. For example, the king of blue spider lilies was a very delicate item. When it was taken down, one had to be several times more careful than when taking down normal blue spider lilies. Could Fang Yu really operate it in his current state? Medicine Maniac expressed his doubts. I'm ready. Senior, please start at any time. Fang Yu said seriously. All right. Potion Maniac nodded and signaled Fang Yu to hide for the time being. Then, he threw him a pill. Take the Qi concealing pill. If you work together, it won't be able to detect you. After saying that, Potion Maniac left. Fang Yu swallowed it without hesitation. Soon, the aroma wafted over from afar, waking the Blackwater mystical snake up instantly. This was the fragrance of a spiritual flower. It tasted sweet and had a rich aftertaste. Many demonic beasts could eat it. Furthermore, this type of spirit flower was divided into different grades. What the Potion Maniac was using as bait was at least mid-upper grade. It was a rare treasure. He really put in a lot of effort. Fang Yu exclaimed. Alchemists are like this. Or it could be said that these so-called masters usually look crazy and not normal, but in reality, once their domain is touched, they will immediately become 100 times more spirited and go crazy. That's why they are masters. Long Tianxian said. Is that so? Fang Yu muttered to himself. He had already asked the Super Slaughter System to integrate all the alchemy knowledge he had obtained so far. If the integration was completed and he became like Potion Maniac, wouldn't it be very miserable? And Lu Xuanzhan. She was a half-step master. If such a good-looking person ended up like Potion Maniac, it would be a pity. Russell, sure enough, this aroma was a fatal temptation to demonic beasts. They wanted to resist, but their instincts did not allow them to. The Blackwater mystical snake hesitated for a moment and left the blue spider lilies. It was not until the Blackwater mystical snake left the blue spider lilies to track the aroma that Fang Yu saw its true appearance. It was a giant snake that was more than 30 meters long. Its entire body was pitch black, and its body was covered in scales. It looked like an impenetrable armor. It's not an ordinary monster king. Fang Yu's heart skipped a beat. If such an existence were to fight head-on, the consequences would be unimaginable. At the very least, Fang Yu did not have much confidence in fighting against the Blackwater mystical snake. Unless he used all his trump cards or he used a cheat. After a while, the Blackwater mystical snake had left the range of his spiritual sense. Fang Yu carefully approached the blue spider lilies and prepared to take the medicine. This is the blue spider lilies, the king of spider lilies? Fang Yu clicked his tongue in amazement. Looking at the blue spider lilies up close, the visual impact was even greater. Moreover, it was full of vitality. Just by standing next to it, one could feel their flesh and blood becoming stronger bit by bit. It was very magical. It's also about to become a monster king. Long Tianxian observed for a while and said, It's more accurate to call it a quasi-monster king now. Monster king? Quasi-monster king? There are martial kings among martial artists and monster kings among monsters. What's so strange about there being monster kings among spiritual herbs? There are even monster kings among elixirs. It's just that the monster kings of elixirs are of a higher level than monster kings and monster kings. That's amazing. Fang Yu used to live in the Tianxian world. The resources were not as abundant as the Wanling continent, and the cultivation system was not as advanced as the Wanling continent. Naturally, he had not heard of monster kings or monster kings. Even if there were, Fang Yu would not have been able to come into contact with them. Because from Long Tianxian's appearance, monster kings were very powerful in the Wanling continent. Above level 9 medicinal pills is Alchemy King. The calculation method of the elixir system is different from usual. It's not easy to differentiate. In short, it's not very likely that a legend can become a monster king. I can only say that there's a certain probability, but it's very, very small. Long Tianxian continued to talk. Our dragon clan once had a legend who became a monster king. Now, the monster king is still living in our treasure vault. How magical! If there's a chance, I also want to become a monster king. Fang Yu rubbed his hands in anticipation. What nonsense are you talking about? Monster kings, I think some martial emperor clans might not even have one. Some legends can't even become a monster king in their lifetime. You want to make one? How? Don't tell me you want our monster king to give you one? How fun! Long Tianxian disdained Fang Yu's whimsical thinking. Everyone has to have dreams. Otherwise, what's the difference between you and a salted fish? Enough chit-chat, hurry up and get the herbs. Otherwise, when the Blackwater mystical snake comes back, I don't want to see how terrifying it is. Fang Yu put away his smile and took out a shovel and a storage bottle with a serious expression, preparing to take out the medicine. Chapter 368. One had to be extra careful when harvesting herbs, especially herbs at the level of a quasi-king of medicine. Fang Yu could feel that the king of blue hurricane lilies was reluctant. However, the king of blue hurricane lilies was only a quasi-king of medicine. It had no right to resist. No matter how unwilling it was still wiped out by Fang Yu in the end. Fang Yu was very careful, but he was overjoyed. It seemed that the king of blue hurricane lilies was going to fall into his hands. However, when Fang Yu was halfway done with the king of blue hurricane lilies, something unexpected happened. Rustle, some subtle movements could be heard from afar. The Blackwater mystical snake is back? Fang Yu's heart sank. How could he not be afraid? Now that the king of blue hurricane lilies was half done, it was unrealistic to take it away or plant it back. The only thing he could do was to continue moving the king of blue hurricane lilies. You can speed it up. The reason why it can't be moved too violently is because it's afraid of hurting its root. However, now that the roots are completely exposed, there's no need to be afraid of hurting it. Long Tianxian reminded him. Okay. Fang Yu immediately sped up. After all, he did not want to face a monster king head-on. Whoosh! When the Blackwater mystical snake arrived, Fang Yu had just put away the king of blue hurricane lilies. Put it down! The Blackwater mystical snake spoke in human language. It was really enraged. Did these humans think it was weak and easy to bully? How dare they steal its king of blue hurricane lilies? Long Tianxian. Fang Yu's hair stood on end. What's the method you were talking about? Activate the soldier-type spiritual adhesion now. Long Tianxian said hurriedly. Okay. Fang Yu replied as he began to execute the technique. Buzz buzz. Immediately after, Fang Yu felt a kind of power attaching itself to his body. Fang Yu felt that he had gained another type of lightning power. Haha, as expected. I'm still a thunder spirit. I haven't completely transformed into a thunder dragon. I was thinking that if I was a spirit, I could use the spirit adhesion technique to fuse with you and lend you my strength. I never thought that I would make the right bet. Long Tianxian burst out laughing and said, This is. Fang Yu, be careful. The Blackwater mystical snake dashed over. The dark water serpent was way too fast, like a pitch-black bolt of lightning striking down. Thunder? Have a taste of my lightning power. Fang Yu did not retreat. Instead, he advanced and punched out. Boom! Fang Yu's fist crackled with thunder. This was the power of the Thunder Soul. Although Long Tianxian hasn't recovered much of his strength, Fang Yu, as a martial spirit, and Long Tianxian are definitely more than 1 + 1 greater than 2. Moreover, the spirit adhesion technique was not as simple as 1 + 1. Its power was increased by a percentage. Fang Yu's punch sent the Blackwater mystical snake flying. Even though it was different from usual, where he could send a martial king flying a distance of 300 meters, it was still quite extraordinary to be able to send a martial king flying. After all, Fang Yu was not a martial king. He had only been a martial spirit for a few days. Oh! Potion Maniac, who had rushed back, was stunned. The Blackwater mystical snake was too fast. Potion Maniac was about to attack when he knew that the Blackwater mystical snake had noticed him. Unfortunately, the Blackwater mystical snake had disappeared in the blink of an eye. When he rushed back, he happened to see Fang Yu send the Blackwater mystical snake flying with a punch. So powerful? Potion Maniac didn't look crazy anymore. "Help me!" Fang Yu shouted. Wasn't that right? Did he really think that he could fight a monster king alone? Even if he could, it would be under the condition that he used all his trump cards. Fang Yu didn't want to use his trump cards, just because he came to pick herbs. Okay. Potion Maniac stepped forward and entangled the Blackwater mystical snake before it launched a second attack on Fang Yu. Bang! 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 Although Potion Maniac looked strange, he was actually very powerful. He had beaten the Blackwater mystical snake with just a few punches. So strong. The Blackwater mystical snake spoke again. Wasn't that right? Alchemy Maniac looked like a crazy old man. However, Potion Maniac's attack was extremely fierce, which made the Blackwater mystical snake wary. However, the Blackwater mystical snake would not give up. It had been guarding the King of Blue Hurricane Lilies for many years. It could be said that it had cultivated to this level because of the King of Blue Hurricane Lilies. It had hoped that the King of Blue Hurricane Lilies would become a real king of medicine in the future. It would swallow it and become a monster royal. Little did it know that Fang Yu and the others were here to pick the fruits of its labor. It couldn't tolerate this. It couldn't. Let's go. It knows this place better than us. It might have other tricks up its sleeve. Potion Maniac urged. Hiss, hiss, the Blackwater mystical snake flicked its tongue. It could not let Potion Maniac and Fang Yu take away its King of Blue Hurricane Lilies. Although it was indeed careless this time. For many years, no creature dared to attack this place. Occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 ignorant fools, but they were all eaten by it. Of course, this was also because the Blackwater mystical snake often cleared the nearby monster beasts, not giving them any chance to enter this place. Because of this, the creatures in the Wailing Grotto all knew that there was a monster beast here and what its bottom line was. If it was not necessary, they would not provoke it. Now that Potion Maniac and Fang Yu had openly touched its bottom line, there was only one outcome: death. We can't keep running like this. You have a refining room here, don't you? Fang Yu asked Potion Maniac while running. Yes, I do. Potion Maniac admitted directly. But it's not safe to bring it there. It's a monster king after all. If it destroys my refining room, the loss will outweigh the gain. Kill it? Fang Yu asked again. It's difficult. Potion Maniac said the word difficult. You don't know how terrifying the monster king here is, and I haven't exercised my muscles for many years. Fang Yu wanted to complain, but there were too many things to complain about. He didn't know what to say at the moment. As for not exercising your muscles, but the Blackwater mystical snake is very vengeful. You took the King of Blue Hurricane Lilies. How could it let you go? It'll definitely fight to the death. Fang Yu was a little speechless. Senior Potion Maniac, you must have thought about this problem before. All these years, the topics I've studied and the direction of improvement are very different from this time. Potion Maniac hesitated for a while and sighed. What's the difference? Fang Yu asked. My initial direction was to make this pill affordable for everyone, so my direction was targeted at the public. But I found that I was wrong. Potion Maniac sighed. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.